Welcome back to the Project Play Summit. The program will begin momentarily. Please make your way to your seats. Please welcome your Project Play MC, Sticks.
All right. Oh my God. Hello. Check. Turn me up. I'm talking to the crowd, not the volume. Turn me up. That's what we say in the neighborhood. Turn me up. No. New lingo you're gonna learn every day with me. How y'all doing this morning? Y'all still drunk from Fenway? Tired? Went to the bar again at the hotel? Who enjoyed Fenway yesterday? We had some dope planeries yesterday, a lot of great sessions. Mine was the best. Again, I'm gonna keep saying it. Say, I am great. Say, I am amazing. We are ready. Show me the money. Shoot, y'all ain't here for nothing. There's $40 billion being spent out there, the parents giving up for these kids. We need a piece. Who all need a piece of that money? Don't be ashamed to ask for money. $40 billion, shoot. NFL only made like $4 billion. Youth sports made around 40. That ain't even on my cue cards. I know that because I'll be looking up $40 billion. Oh my God. Private equity. I ain't gonna say nothing else about that. We're gonna get into that in a later session. But it's another wonderful morning, 2026 Project Play Summit. Make some noise. Sorry, I didn't have my band this morning. I tried to get the people flying from the ceiling, but it was out of the budget. It was spent on youth sports. No. I'm up here. It's another amazing day. We got a bunch of amazing sessions. Real fast, we're going to get right into it. I ain't going to take too much time. I just wanted to engage with y'all, make sure y'all here. Y'all got the energy. Y'all up. Y'all not sleeping in these chairs. We're going to have some fun today. It's going to be great. And I want you to take your phones out right now, and we're going to interact a little bit. I want to ask you a question. Are you using AI in your work serving youth through sports? Scan, answer it. Yes, no, yes. Okay. I'm using AI athletes. Let's go. Okay. Yeah. A lot of y'all using AI. That's great. 16 of you, 18 of you said no. Don't be ashamed. You're going to learn a lot about it today. You may be scared. You may think an AI robot is going to come out and take over your foundation. It won't. It can actually help, or it can hurt if you don't know how to use it properly. But there's a lot of technology out these days. What impact do you think you will have on youth sports? Depends on how it's regulated. Oh, y'all waiting on the government. Don't you wait on the government, because the government waits on AI. Just helping y'all out. You got 70. Ooh-wee. Remember, I'm the one who told you. Okay, that's good. Next one is, y'all floating through this. Oh, we got 1 minute left, that's why. What impact you think private equity will have? Oh, this is an easy one. I'm going to just throw the cards for this one. No. Make it worse. I actually studied finance, so I'm a little 50-50 in this, but make it worse. No. We got to make it better. We got no difference. Depends on how it's regulated. Y'all might as well just leave. Make it worse. It's interesting. We're going to get into conversations about that. I think it could make it better, but I think $40 billion. Who's it going to? Maybe if we could take a percentage of that and it go towards the organizations that's working in youth sports, who knows? But I'm glad to see AI. A lot of us aren't afraid. We're adopting it. There's nothing else you can do about it. I'm just letting you know. Newsflash, AI is here. So get used to it, embrace it, figure out a way that it can help your organization, institution, business, operation, what have you. There's so many different ways where it can be effective. And I'll shut up talking about those things because we got experts to help you with this. Please welcome to the stage Aspen Institute's John Solomon as we discuss the potential impacts of AI on sports. Make some noise.
Terrible. How you doing? Sorry.
Oh, he's holding. Thank you.
Great, good morning. You'll hear good morning. My name is John Solomon, Research Director for the Aspen Institute Project Play. This session is called The Algorithmic Athlete, Protecting Play in the Age of AI. As we all know, AI is disrupting many aspects of our lives, and that includes youth sports. Using AI-powered video analysis, wearable sensors, and analytics platforms, sports providers are potentially offering families a more personalized and engaging experience. But AI also carries concerns about costs, data privacy, balancing technology with personal coaching, and time commitment for younger children. Do we really want 8 and 9-year-old soccer players in film study, as some parents are starting to do by paying several $100s annually to analyze their analytics? AI can democratize training and help coaches. It also risks turning kids into data points. So what guardrails are needed to limit surveillance and protect the essence of play? And we're going to discuss that today with a terrific panel. Please first introduce, to my immediate right, Zarif Hawk is CEO of The Good Game. The Good Game is an app designed to allow individuals, not the organization, to control their data as a passport, while integrating this information into any league, school, facility, or system so transactions can happen quickly in a compliant and safe way. Next to Zarif is Travis Roach, who works at the intersection of sports, business, and technology, focusing on how data and emerging digital tools are reshaping coaching, player development, and the sports experience. He's the author of articles titled How AI Can Empower Parent Coaches in Youth Sports and Coaching in the Age of AI. And finally, we have Callie Schrader, is Senior Counsel and Director of the AI and Human Rights Program at the Electronic Privacy Information Center. It's a nonprofit research and advocacy center dedicated to securing the fundamental right to privacy in the digital age for all people, including children. Thank you all for being here. A lot to dig into because there's a lot going on with AI these days. First, let's talk about the potential value of AI to youth sports. I'm interested in what are you currently seeing about how AI is helping children, parents, coaches, administrators in AI, or how it could be positively used moving forward? Zarif, you want to start off?
Sure. Thank you for having me. AI is very interesting as it's become a very important topic. And, for us at The Good Game, we're trying to decide on how can we help the actual individual get involved with sports much easier. That means the student athletes, the children, the workers, the donors, and how can we allow for AI to make their interactions with sports organizations and governance much simpler. And so we believe that AI should be a tool that helps them, like everything from not just scheduling and finding better options, but we think that it can also help them understand all the rules and the regulations around the guardrails. And what we did is we created a passport which follows the individual. It can attach to their journey or moment in time in sports. And we believe that AI can be very helpful, but it needs to be safeguarded.
Travis, how about you? You're a youth lacrosse coach. In what ways are you seeing AI being used in a positive way?
AI is definitely being used very broadly across youth sports. So I have a coaching background from the collegiate level all the way down to youth sports. Specifically at the youth sports level, what I am seeing is really about performance, getting kids to understand technically how to perform better. So in a sense, it's democratizing knowledge. In a lot of areas, there's not professional coaches or individuals that have played at the high levels, nor even having individuals that had coaching experience. You're having parents who are volunteers that are passionate about the sport or there to really help facilitate their child even having a team to play on. So AI has stepped in in ways, or is starting to, that I've written about is, what are some of the things that I need to teach? How do I set up a practice plan? So platforms like Team Snap will send maybe weekly messages on these are things that you can teach to your particular age group. I know platforms like Game Changer are providing lineups for, I think, your baseball team or softball team, or even using video to record games. My team now uses VO that records our games, and we can go back and analyze the things that we need to work on and the things that are going well. So it's throughout the sports, or throughout different sports, or throughout different teams, depending on their means. I've seen AI usage kind of differ a little bit, but those are some of the ways.
Kelly, how about you? In what ways do you think AI could be used positively?
I'll preface this whole thing by saying that by nature of my job, we look a lot at AI risks, and so we're the ones in the room that are like, hey, be careful, and here's why. So I'm already coming at this from a little bit of an AI naysayer perspective. I do think that there's potential to use AI well in this space, but so much of it depends on how the products are designed, what you're trusting them to do, and what kind of transparency you can get from it. So the term AI itself is this giant umbrella term. It can mean a million different things. It can be anything from the text predictors on your cell phone to really advanced generative AI and agentic AI systems. It's a huge, huge range. And we're seeing that kind of range play out in youth sports. There are some things that are much simpler and lower risk uses of AI, like scheduling, maybe marketing tools, maybe some administrative tools, especially things where there still is a human check in the system. Maybe the AI starts the process, but a person is signing off on things, doing a review, making sure it's all accurate. And then there's really, really sensitive and advanced things that are tracking kids' biometrics to check their performance. That is a high-risk activity because a biometric is something like facial recognition. It's tracking your movement or tracking your gait, maybe tracking your heart rate. That's all stuff that's incredibly individually identifying, changes a ton over the course of a kid's life. Like puberty changes so many of those biometric markers, and companies are desperate to get that information because that is one of the only areas, children's information is one of the only areas that is really decently protected by our privacy laws in the country. So companies have been looking for a way to collect that information for a long time. This is one potential way they can get it. And that's so identifiable and more of a fingerprint. Like if that information leaks, it's very hard to change and it's very hard to get away from. If my password leaks to something, I can change my password. If my face print leaks, I'm not changing my face. I like it and that requires surgery and I don't want to do that. So in a lot of cases, it's just looking at the huge range of ways that AI can be used. It could be used to level playing fields and give access to coaching and feedback loops that kids in like rural areas or more impoverished areas don't typically get. That's awesome. But it's only awesome if you're using it in really safe and responsible ways, and if the kids and the parents have control over what's being collected, how it's being used, and who it's being shared with.
Yeah, let's talk about the democratization potentially of this. I think in some ways it could be very helpful, particularly to your all points in rural communities, lower income communities that may not have access to quality coaching. Travis, do you think it will democratize training, or because I guess it depends how it's utilized, does it accelerate the pay-to-play model that we already see in those companies, those leagues that have the capacity for AI, may just be using these tools even more and more, and maybe the costs keep going up for families?
I think the tool itself, AI, I shouldn't say the tool itself, AI in general is like that rising tide that raises all boats. I think everyone will benefit from it, in which they have greater access to information through using a multitude of tools, from YouTube to specific AI-focused youth sports tools. They will get knowledge or access to knowledge that they don't generally have. I think where the separation occurs with some of the kind of maybe more well-funded areas is that AI is only one component of developing athletes. Having someone there that can understand context. I think we've talked a little bit about that, especially on the emotional side. Sports is a very emotional activity. There's frustrations, there's kind of hitting a wall. There's a number of things that are happening that you need somebody there that is knowledgeable and present in the moment to help. But then there's also the filtering of the content that you're getting from AI. So it's not just, oh, AI spit out this information, I'm just going to run with it. What does it mean to the body of players that you have? Are they more on the talented end? Are they new to the sport? What age they are? Context matters so much across performance. So it's not just, hey, here's some information, go run with it. I think that's, again, where the separation happens is who are the individuals in place to best leverage it so the kids themselves get the most out of it and perform at the highest level.
And Travis, I think it'll be helpful. You're a coach. Can you explain how you are currently using AI and like in what ways when it comes to coaching?
All right, so ways that I've used AI. So as I kind of briefly said a couple minutes ago, I have been a coach across a multitude of levels. I've played sports in college and high school, so I definitely bring a lot of knowledge, but there's still things that I don't know. And especially with certain age groups, I've used AI to, in a sense, as an advisor to bounce ideas. Is this appropriate for teaching to this given group? It helps to give me context in which I can now modify my lesson plan or what I wanted to teach for that given day. Additionally, I talked about recording games. It is an AI tool that records the games, picks out highlights, goals, whatever happened throughout the game, that allows me to then analyze the performance of my team and then go back and make adjustments as needed to help them to perform better, to teach different things that I may not understood or saw in practice that they're struggling with. So for different tasks, I've used AI in different ways.
So one concern I have with AI, I think there can be incredible value for it. I worry that AI may go too far into the analytics in youth sports like we see in professional sports already. I'm okay with like my favorite Major League Baseball team using like, AI for, analytics. I don't want a youth coach using it to like bench kids or, setting up their lineups, particularly at younger ages before they've really grown to their bodies, minds, and interests. And I'm worried parents may use AI to argue with their coaches for playing time because they're looking at their analytics. So Zarif and others as well, like how do we protect the human aspect of youth sports? And so we're not just turning this all over to machines.
Well, I think what's interesting is that AI is causing like a rampant scaling of sports, and so is the money that's flowing into the industry. And when you start thinking about, how does an individual like really leverage AI and what they're going to be doing with it, I think the reality is that it's an individual choice, and it's how somebody is going to read it. If a coach is going to use AI to make their decisions, it's only happening because we're not finding enough good coaches, we're not training enough good coaches, and so we're trying to give them tools for anybody to become a coach, and then they're making decisions off of numbers. And the reality is that sports is built for that human-to-human interaction. There are things that we see with our eyes that no machine will be able to see. There's character, right? There's perseverance. We say things like against all odds. How is AI going to determine that, right? And so when I really think about the usage of AI, I come back to it's a great tool, it's a great assistant, it's a great way for us to scale our operations or make it easy for a mother and a father to coordinate this whole world that they're into. But determining or using AI to determine success or a future of somebody, I think is not right for children, to be very honest. It's, even in my own personal life, it's like I have failed in my life. AI would probably say the odds of me being on the stage is 0. But today I'm on the stage, right? So how do you work with that? And so I think we just have to pay attention and be very, very careful.
Can I jump in on that too?
Yeah, please.
So again, more pessimist, but one thing that I would say that people really need to think about with AI is a machine that's good at replicating patterns and it's good at crunching numbers. it's not good at the human elements of sport or of coaching because it's not a human, and a lot of those things are intangibles that you cannot measure and quantify. So it may tell you what the likelihood is of a team beating another team. It may tell you what a kid's stats are. It may tell you how fast they can run right now, or what the trajectory of their typical pitch is. But it has no idea how to predict things like a Cinderella story, which is one of the best things we see in sports, where underdog teams suddenly have an amazing game. Like, that's not a thing you can predict for. It also doesn't judge things like, there are plenty of kids on teams that may not be the most technically gifted, but their work ethic is unbelievable. They're able to motivate their teammates in phenomenal ways. They have leadership qualities. They have character. They're able to lose gracefully. They're able to win well. Like, all of those are things that you can't measure in a machine. And all of that matters when you're building a team, when you're training kids, when you're working with kids. And what I worry about is that there's this assumption that because AI is AI and it doesn't have human emotions, it doesn't have human fallibility, it must be more accurate than our own instincts or than our own experience. And that's just not true. It's built to be supplemental and it's built to be analytical, but those aren't the only things that matter in coaching or in youth sports. And so what I worry about is all these studies that we see of people giving over their own judgment to machines and mistrusting their own instincts in favor of what a machine's telling them. And I'm totally fine with people using AI where you find it useful, but please don't mistrust your own experience and your own instincts and your own relationships with these kids. That matters so much more than what a machine is telling you.
John, and as a youth coach, one of the things I struggle with in tying it to AI is, what is the goal? Is the goal to develop your athlete, or is it to win games? And I struggle that from a human standpoint with even my board and parents. Parents, not only just parents want their children to play more minutes, but they also want the teams to win. And sometimes those goals are conflicting. So as you're using AI to structure lineups or improve performance, you have to understand, what is the end goal? Is the end goal solely to win games? Then you're going to have a different output. Or is it to develop your athletes so in the future, when they're adults, they are winning those games? But we have to make that clear. And if we don't, then we get into this loop of kids are underperforming or we're not winning games, and therein lies the conflict.
I might want to add something really quickly. There is one area that I do find interesting with AI that's very helpful, and that might be injury prevention. I think that the data does help predict certain things that may happen that could be negative. So it just comes back to, when we talk about AI and being so general, there's so many pieces of AI. You know, I think when it comes to that human-to-human piece, I absolutely agree with you that, you know, we shouldn't let a machine turn into our coach, right? But that same machine could also help somebody not tear their ACL. And so maybe we can use AI in positive ways like that to really help our children and make sure that they're not pushing themselves to their limits.
There's another element to this as well, and that is, are we potentially impacting the joy of play for kids with, or putting more pressure on them with how much they are going to be monitored or already being monitored? If you go to many club events, high school sports events, various facilities, there are AI-controlled cameras that are monitoring it. They're streaming it live, but also sometimes they're monitoring their statistics. Callie, like, how do we think about the joy of play, and is there potential that when kids know they are being watched so much that this could potentially impact and have them feel more pressure in sports?
Yeah, so to preface this, I'm a giant nerd. So I had when I was in law school, one of my independent studies was looking at philosophy and psychology of privacy, and basically how we change our behavior when we know we're being observed. And in all of the studies that I saw, the most reactive people are children. Children absolutely change their behavior when they know they're being observed. And this gets presented in a lot of contexts as that's a good thing because you're not breaking rules or breaking the law if you know someone's watching. But it also happens in a lot of stifling and really harmful ways. So number one, it can totally stifle creativity and individuality. It can mean cultural differences get smoothed over because you don't want to stand out. It can mean you don't want to draw attention to yourself, and so sometimes really good creative innovative things get stifled and don't happen because people are afraid of taking risks that way. It also is a huge factor because in kids, you're often trying on a bunch of different identities of yourself. You're kind of testing who you want to be, what you want your values to be, who you want to hang out with, and how you want to identify. That's so much harder and scarier to do if you know you're being watched and all of the different versions of yourself you're trying are going to follow you your whole life. So when we're looking at things like AI or like this constant monitoring, even when it's for a good purpose, when it's monitoring games, monitoring practices, trying to improve performance, trying to figure out dynamics, there is a factor there we have to consider of whether the benefits of this outweigh the harms, and there are actual harms to it.
Yeah. And I'll add to that a little bit. I think I talked about a little bit about filtering. So one of the articles that I wrote focused on how will coaches leverage AI as the sports world is evolving, and especially at the collegiate level. We record so much data on high-performing athletes, and there's a negative side to it. They consume the content, they feel like they're not performing well, and it creates kind of a doom loop in which they're judging every little thing, every little mistake. So you would say maybe we record less, but I think there definitely needs to, once again, be that filter in between that allows them to focus on, you're doing fine, and there's a whole human element to it. You're doing okay. These are the areas to kind of focus on. Mm-hmm. At the youth sports level, what I found is that data is then used to evaluate, should my kid play over another kid? They're performing. Why is this kid getting more game time than my kid? Instead of, is everybody improving? Mm-hmm. Is everybody enjoying the game because they're playing well on the field? That hopefully leads to winning at the end of the day. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. So.
Last question for each of you. We're going to count down briefly. Put on your predictive hat. I know predictions are incredibly challenging in these unpredictable times, but 5 years from now, what do you think is the biggest impact AI has on youth sports, either positively or negatively? Sarif, start with you real quick.
I would say the first thing on a side note is that I believe that all of us need to think about thoughtful augmentation when it comes to AI. Not be afraid of it, but to use it appropriately. In 5 years from now, I think that there's going to be an enormous amount of information and data. I think that sports is going to become probably too technical, and we're going to lose sight of what it was like when we were playing in grass fields that weren't turf. You know, I joke around, I had orange slices at halftime, no uniforms at all. And I had memories of just playing. And I'm really concerned with this constant pressure with what children are enduring through sports. But I think there's going to be a lot of changes.
Travis, real quick, prediction.
A coach in pretty much every kid or parent's pocket, as we talked about democratizing access to high-level content that helps athletes improve. I hope that there's a high-quality coach that's very accessible to parents and players that allows them to improve. So.
Callie, your prediction? Are you doom and gloom?
Almost always. No, I'm gonna try really hard not to end this on a negative note, and I will be very quick because I know we're at time. I think that it's going to highlight what we love about sports and people in the first place, which is there is a human element, there's an unpredictable element to sports, and what we want is to engage people, to have those unpredictable human moments and elements, and to make those relationships and connections and growth. And I think having so much digitized and dataized and have that broad expanse come into youth sports is really going to highlight what can't be replicated by machines, what makes us unique as people, and what makes sports so engaging and so useful. So hopefully the pendulum kind of swings back the other way on this.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. Wonderful panel. Really appreciate it. Please give them a round of applause. Wonderful job. And I'd like to now introduce Linda Flanagan to moderate our next panel titled From PE to PE, How Private Equity Can Be a Good Actor.
Hi, everybody. In the interest of time, this is such an important subject, and we only have 20 minutes. So I want to briefly introduce these luminaries to my right. Catherine Van Dyke, who I know as Katie, is a senior legal fellow at the American Economic Liberties Project and formerly an attorney at the Federal Trade Commission. You may recognize her from her viral testimony before Congress in December. Look it up. And then to her right is Jay Adya, who's a managing partner at Elysian Park Ventures, which is backed by the Dodgers. Elysian Park has been very active in youth sports, and Jay has a long history as an investor in the sports world writ large. So in the interest of time, we're going to start with Jay. Okay, so we all know about the $40 billion industry with youth sports, and there's been so much in the news for the last 6 to 18 months about private equity swooping in. At the same time, I think I speak for many when I say there's a lot of confusion about what private equity actually is and how it's different from, say, venture capital, which is what Elysian Park is primarily, and, say, family-run businesses. If you could help us understand the differences broadly.
Sure, yeah. So venture capital is primarily an asset class that invests in early stage companies. So companies that are just starting out, that have a new product, a new service, a new technology, primarily minority investments that are made into those businesses. And typically the people that work at venture capital firms get pretty actively involved into those companies, helping build product, et cetera. Conventional private equity is kind of the opposite of that, much later stage investments into much more mature companies, and typically, but not always, kind of control or owned positions. So that there are a lot of differences in what and how those companies operate. I'd say more broadly, the type of capital is, there are differences, but it's sort of where and how that capital is used and for what purposes to solve what problems is where we try to spend our time.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, now Katie, to you, point counterpoint. You are an antitrust attorney, and you were involved in litigating against Varsity Brand Sports for its monopolization of cheerleading. I wonder if you could share with us what concerns you most about profit-driven capital taking such a dominant role in youth sports, whether it's backed by private equity or venture capital or some other source.
Sure. So I think to say what concerns me first, I have to say being here this week and listening to everybody in this room and on the stage talk about their passion for youth sports and building up accessibility and just really helping children develop is incredibly inspiring to me. And so what concerns me is, from my experience working on the Varsity case and generally as an antitrust lawyer, is that the profit motive of these investment firms is inherently at odds with those goals. When we hear a lot about these firms building ecosystems, and what those ecosystems are really just what we like to call in the antitrust world moats or walled gardens. And they're designed to keep innovators, like the people in this room, out, and to keep families and kids trapped inside. And that's how you end up with things like state of play and having to pay an entry fee to watch your own kid play. It's why you have vertical integration and roll-ups, so that by controlling an entire sport or an entire industry, your customers, who are in this case are families and children, have no choice but to use all of your products and services and platforms. It's what allows them to load the companies with debt and strip their assets. And none of those things are aimed at child development, they're aimed at extraction.
Well said. Okay, so back to you, Jay. Pressure's on.
Let's go.
Okay, so to reshape a little bit what Katie said, so many of us in the room are concerned about, obviously we know 46% increase in price of youth sports since 2019. Despite the great news about participation going up, it's going down among low-income families. There's an epidemic of overuse injuries. And the travel, some 80% of parents want less travel, but all they're getting is more travel. So I just wonder if you could, give us some good news about PE or venture capital taking action to address some of these issues that are not about profit, so that how they can be a force for good in this area.
Sure. I mean, first, I do think it's important to sort of characterize the $40 billion youth sports industry, right? Everyone hears that number, and it's a big number, but youth sports is not a monolith, right? There is private sector youth sports, there's scholastic youth sports. Oftentimes, it's the same parent that pays for the private club, the private lesson, but also has a kid that's in the scholastic sport, and those have very different demographics to them, right? Scholastic sports, we have plenty of companies that are just focused on fundraising for scholastic sports, and high school sports today remain chronically underfunded, even though their private sector comparables have undue money that goes to them. So there is a wide variety of companies that operate in those spaces. As it relates to what we do and what we're trying to do, is, I mean, like I said earlier, like, to me, it's less important the characterization of the money and more what's the money going to be used for, right? You do need to have good commercial models that are sustainable and durable to have and build good systems and improve good systems in and around youth sports. And let me give you one example, right? We have a company called EL1 in our portfolio. EL1 is a nationwide baseball and softball training and development company with over 20 facilities all across the country. We partnered with MLB, and I think might be some Major League Baseball executives in attendance here. We partnered with MLB, we're grateful to have as an investor and a partner in EL1, to basically help make baseball and softball happen more frequently at a local level. So while you may not know the EL1 entity, people in Seattle do know the Seattle Mariners Baseball Academy, the Pittsburgh Pirates Training Academy, and so on and so forth for 6 or 7 different clubs in those communities. And here's why that matters, right? Top-down support from the league or its clubs provides an authority, a trusted authority, but more importantly, we now have a feedback loop for for the training development that goes on. So when we run programs at the local level, we have a profit share that the clubs have, and they use and they reinvest into the communities themselves. So when the Pirates or the Phillies or the Guardians or the Mariners, when we partner with them to build and have local communities have more baseball training, softball training at scale by trained coaches who've all gone through Safe Sport certification, that creates an economic feedback loop that today has brought back over $500,000 into local communities through underserved programs, through Parks and Rec programs, and the like. And that's what we want to do, right? We want to have sustainable, durable commercial models that help expand participation, extend it, and enrich it across the country. Mm-hmm. And you can make money in so doing by expanding the base, not by charging the extra $20 an hour for a private lesson. Those are very different approaches to the problem.
Yeah, I don't think we hear enough about those kinds of initiatives. Yeah. So Katie, what do you think, what Jay's comments notwithstanding, do you think there are sufficient guardrails in place at the moment, or do we need or more enforcement of current laws to preserve the interests of families and children, or can we rely on the industry to police itself? What do you think?
It probably won't surprise people that I don't think self-policing is adequate here. That's why there's a reason we have Safe Sport, right? Safe Sport came out of a terrible thing that happened in USA Gymnastics. There's a reason that Varsity, who I was sued for antitrust violations and is currently facing a multitude of lawsuits for sex abuse, because this kind of environment where you have adults and children interacting and profit motive inherently can't exist without oversight. To sort of explain, I think maybe it helps to explain, what did Varsity do? Varsity built what I like to think of as a flywheel. They controlled over 80% of the events where all-star cheerleading competitions take place, the event production side of it. Then they created an apparel company, and they said, if you want a discount on our apparel, you have to commit to a certain number or your entire season to our events. Then they put all their employees on the governing body, the U.S. All-Star Federation, and so they were able to use that to write the rules to advantage their own events and to keep other events from blossoming. And they used that system to just build a flywheel and really take advantage of kids and coaches and the cheer gyms that were trying to field these teams and build up small businesses in their communities. And so to regulate that, you really need to go after this sort of vertical integration and roll-ups that really enable it. We do have existing antitrust laws that can take those on. I won't bore you with the details of it, but they do exist. But I think there's a lot more we can do to disincentivize this type of behavior. We need to ban that type of behavior outright. We need to ban the debt loading and the asset stripping in youth sports. And what we really, really need is accountability for these firms. The way these are structured right now, legally, the actual investment firm who owns these companies is usually protected, and it's really hard to go after them when they leave an organization in shambles, when they don't have the right kind of safe sport policies in place. They can sell the company and leave, and the club is decimated, or the facilities are run down and don't work for the community anymore. And the ones who really suffer are the kids who don't have a club anymore, the community that has a rundown facility. And so there are a lot of ways to take these on, and I think it's important that we need to focus on that. Another thing is focusing on, I think, really the predatory and fraudulent practices that we see. This is a vulnerable group. Parents are trying to figure out how to pay for college, and companies like 3Step and Perfect Game are promising recruitment and scholarships and NIL money and those things. Like, people need that, feel like they really need that stuff for their kids to move on in life. And so we need to focus on, and regulators and enforcers need to focus on going after that. Who's benefiting from stay-to-play policies? What's happening behind the scenes? What kind of representations are being made to families, and what's true and what's not?
I think that's an area of actual alignment, right? Like, the problems are, everyone agrees with the problems, right? Like, travel ball is too expensive, period. What do you do about it, I think, is a more nuanced discussion, right? So one of the things we're doing across our companies is just having several of our companies just start to run more local leagues and tournaments. Why? Because there's certainly demand for local leagues and tournaments to happen, right? Kids and parents want to play right down the street or within 30 minutes, as opposed to go travel to Florida or Arizona for weekend tournaments, right? You can do that. You can set up those kinds of tournaments and address the problem of cost, right? Like, I think the Aspen Institute has put out some great research that suggests that travel ball, kids and families that play in travel ball spend upwards of $30,000 per year for their kid to play, the majority of which is through travel-related expenses. Well, just if we simply set up more successful local leagues, if we get Major League Baseball teams, in the case of baseball, involved, if we get minor league baseball teams involved in and around the fields that they have access to, you address the cost issue, you address the travel issue, and frankly, you just address the ease of playing issue, right? You expand the base so that more kids can play. I think those are all actionable solutions, which do require capital, but we would suggest it's a good use of capital in that form, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. Like, we're investing in those kinds of businesses. EL1, as I mentioned earlier, is one of them, and the like. And on the other point that I would say as well, which is another area I think of alignment, we agree. Like, we as Legion Park, anyways, fully agree that the notion of walled gardens and paying for access to your own data is antithetical to where and how society should go. I mean, athletes and their families should be in control of their own data, period. And so as we think about system design and thinking about how the pyramid of youth sports, regardless of what the sport is, can be better organized, athletes should be in control of their own data. So when they first play in an event or first join a sport, they go to their first training session, they go to their first team, or they go to their first practice, if you can kind of create a way for them to sort of track their progress such that they can measure it by themselves and they can have access to it on their own, not having to pay, no offense, to Perfect Game or others who have to pay for your own the results of your own performance, like, that's not right. Like, you should be able to have access to your own data. And again, I'm not just sitting here saying this in a vacuum. Like, these are the kinds of companies and businesses, Breakaway Data in this example, that we're literally investing in today.
Okay, but quickly, Jay, how can Elysian Park and others like you, the good apples, establish norms that the bad apples will be, in the absence of enforcement or regulation, how will they be compelled to do, act in the best interest of kids and families?
Well, I mean, listen, I do think this is where actual top-down partnerships and public-private partnerships actually have a meaningful role to play, right? Like, it is really important to us as Elysian Park, where we begin to work with leagues, governing bodies, associations to establish, top-down policies that it can affect and address problems of across all sports, right? So whether it's Major League Baseball for baseball, whether it's we had an interesting discussion with the Heisman for football, volleyball associations for volleyball with companies we've invested in there, having top-down support to actually say this is the way we are going to go do things going forward, athletes being in control of their own data by example, expanding, extending, enriching participation as a category strategy by example, like that gets much better effectuated by leagues, governing bodies that I think can be impactful.
Okay. All right, we have 2.5 minutes. I'm going to give Katie the last word here. Okay, so we know that Washington is not exactly in a regulatory mode. In the absence of regulation, how would you advise parents to push back against some of the predatory behavior, the state of play, the $30 per person? I hear about this all the time. We would charge $30 a person to attend our kids' game. What can parents do to, if anything, to push back against that?
First of all, I don't want to put the onus on parents. I don't think it's fair for parents who are really struggling. College costs right now, I think it's on average $100,000 to $200,000 for a 4-year degree. That's an average. And so parents are trying to do what's best for their kids for the most part, I think. And so asking a parent to sort of benevolently step outside of the travel league and put their kids in the rec league that can barely field a team that's asking a lot of a mom and dad. But that doesn't mean they're powerless. First of all, they can call their congressman. You can call your state representative. You can call your city council. You can get involved and push back and say, like, we want local games. How do we get them? You can talk to, when your club says we have to drive 2 hours for one game for multiple weekends this season, ask them why. When you're charged a fee, ask them why. I think there's a lot that people in this room can do to educate parents about what the realities are, what the chances are of getting a scholarship, what the chances are of getting NIL money are. There's just a lot of education that you're right, we can do and we can empower ourselves. That being said, I agree with you that getting back to local sports is the most important part of this. My kid used to play Little League, and that was a really enriching experience where you're watching your neighborhood kids and grow and develop. The travel ball that we do now is much more cold, and it's not as fun for anybody. So I wish that we could get back to that, and I think this community here has a lot of power to get back to local games and local play and focusing on what our kids need.
Yep. Okay, well, that's all we have. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Katie and Jay. And now Tom is going to come back, and he's going to lead a discussion on how to build systems to protect kids.
Thanks, man. All right. Thank you, Linda. All right, who's ready to get wonky? We're going to talk about systems design. This session is called Building Youth-Centered Sport Ecosystems. It's wonky, but we also have like a very real-world example of what a system looks like when it's functioning very well. And I know I've been talking about this maybe ad nauseum since 2018 when I was covering the Olympics for NBC Sports, and Norway had 39 medals, the U.S. had 28. I'm like, how did that happen? And I started talking to the architects of the system there, and they said, well, the key is we got it right at the base. We got 93% of kids in this country playing in sport clubs. We focus on love of game. We focus on physical literacy. We focus on local low-cost play. And then we build consensus around that idea, from the Olympic Committee to the national governing bodies to local representatives and the clubs, and we gain a clear idea on what we want to happen at 13 and under. And that's the foundation for us to then create, on a per capita basis, the best athletes in the world. Not just in winter sports, but in a lot of summer sports, they're doing very, very well. So I've been obsessed by this model, and while recognizing that Norway is a much smaller country than the US, it's also the same size as many US states. So I'm not willing to throw out the model and say it doesn't work. I think there are a lot of principles that are transferable, and that's the core of this particular session that we're going to cover today. With me is Miriam Mansouri, who is a senior manager with the Monitor Institute with Deloitte, which has helped us build a 2-year, 3-year plan through the 28 Olympics around the Bill of Rights, a horizontal strategy, a city-by-city strategy. And we also have Cassidy Lickman, who is the new chair of USA Volleyball, and also a senior executive with Athletes Unlimited. So let me just start with let's talk about the problem that needs to be solved in your estimation. How would each of you assess the challenges facing children and their youth sports journey? I'll start with you, actually, Cassidy.
I think the big challenge is the adults have kind of lost the plot on what matters. You just described Norway and what they've done there and how that approach has led to great success at the elite levels too. And so if you look at kind of the adults that are part of our kids' lives in sport, the coaches, the parents, those of us who are creating the systems that they're playing through, I think what we're emphasizing or incentivizing isn't always aligned with those principles. And I was talking to probably about the best player in our country right now, Jordan Thompson, a couple days ago. And what she said, she was like, I love playing volleyball. She's a multiple-time Olympian. She's played for, a couple decades now. Mm-hmm. And she's the best because she loves playing volleyball. Right. And she's, 6'5", and that helps too. But without that love for it, she never gets to that level. So whether you're going to play through middle school or high school or through the Olympics, it has to start with that core. And we don't really have the systems that necessarily emphasize and incentivize that.
That's right. Miriam?
Yeah, I think, Tom, what we found is that there are so many national level trends or challenges that are increasing barriers, decreasing access to sports, that are trickling down at local communities in really powerful and negative ways. And many of those we've talked about through the summit, I think in really interesting, compelling ways already, but I'll name 3. Cost and time is number 1. Families, particularly those who are of lower income, are facing incredible challenges in being able to both have the financial resources, but also the time necessary to make sure that their kids can play in sports. Coaching is another. Coaches are receiving less training in really important issues around child safety, CPR, youth development, mental health that's affecting the quality of coaching for these kids. And then specialization of sports. We found that more and more kids, this is no surprise, are specializing at sports at an earlier age, and that is resulting in increased pressure, increased injuries, and an overall increased rate of quitting sports altogether. And so I think in totality, what we're facing is national challenges that are impacting children and families at a local level in really profound ways.
Yeah. So let me ask you both about what we mean by systems change, right? It's a term that's thrown around quite casually. We often don't define what we mean. My friend Claude has a definition I will share with you. Systems change targets the rules and not just the results. It addresses the policies, power structures, and norms that make certain outcomes inevitable. So we're not just helping people navigate a broken system, we're changing the system itself. Number 2, it's durable by design. When the underlying structure shifts, the new behavior becomes the default. The impact persists beyond any single program, leader, or funding cycle. And number 3, it requires a different definition of success. Systems change is slow. It is hard to attribute, which means those who are funding this work need to be comfortable with longer time horizons, emergent indicators of progress, and shared credit across a field. I found that useful. So let me ask you, like, Miriam, why do systems and ecosystems, and I know that's a whole other conversation, matter at the local level? How do they shape behavior?
Yeah, well, I think ecosystems matter because individuals don't live in silos, right? We live at the intersections of very dynamic and fluid systems every day. And so my experience, my kids' experience, my colleagues' experiences aren't defined by just one interaction with an individual or an organization or a particular policy. They are the result of those interactions in totality as a collective. And so what we find too when you talk about behavior change in these systems is that experience oftentimes leads behavior. So what I mean by that is if you're creating a system, an ecosystem at a local level that encourages things like cooperation, trust, people will engage. Oftentimes they will. And the converse is true. If you have an ecosystem at a local level that is encouraging antagonism or mistrust or conflict, people, including children, will disengage. And so I think when you're trying to design for systems change, that definition you brought out, you're not designing for one interaction for a person. You're designing for the entire system that that person operates in.
Right, definitely. How do we look at this from a single sport perspective? Why does an ecosystem or a system, in the case of volleyball, matter? The journey of a child from the moment they touch a volleyball to whatever the highest level is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're setting the standards and norms as they go through that sport, which informs how the parents are approaching it, how the clubs are approaching it. We just heard from the last panel about how parents are incentivized to push their kid through sport, but they don't necessarily know what that means. So they might say, yeah, like my kid's at this club because they play every weekend in tournaments. Like, that's actually not great. Your kid shouldn't be playing every weekend. So I think setting kind of those standards and, as USA Volleyball being the sort of umbrella over a lot of that ecosystem, as you and Claude said in the first point, like, we are setting the rules and kind of the situations that we're putting these people in terms of the events that we run and the coaching education and everything that we're putting out there from the national governing body, level.
What do actors within an ecosystem need to create better outcomes, right? What is the value, if any, in creating a minimum or a building code, a minimum set of conditions under which disparate providers, should honor when serving you? You've done a lot of work with us on the Children's Bill of Rights in sports.
I think the answer is simple. There's profound, really significant impact in having a fundamental building code, Tom, because I think what we found to your first question is that what local ecosystems need fundamentally is shared language, shared principles, a shared set of priorities. And when you have that, it is a really powerful tool for being able to guide policy design and implementation, to be able to guide how actors in an ecosystem collaborate and partner. It guides investment of dollars. And I think those three things in combination are really important when you were thinking about, to Claude and your point, what systems change looks like in a sustainable way.
Cassie, what is USA Volleyball doing in support of building a better system or ecosystem,
Yeah, one of the things we're thinking about is the athlete development model. So again, from the time they pick up a ball, or I like to think of like the first step of volleyball being keep the balloon off the floor. Like that's stage one, and then we go all the way up to the Olympic team. I think one of our recent upgrades has been in our high performance level, the national team development pipeline. I think we've done a much better job of getting those kind of top level kids in the gym under the right kind of structures and coaching. What we're looking at right now is the youngest ages. It's really hard to play volleyball when you're under 10. You got to keep a ball up in the air. If you play soccer and you miss the ball stays where it is. It's probably fine. Keeping a ball in the air is really hard, especially when you're like 3 feet tall. So we haven't done a great job with that as a sport, of lowering the net, making the court smaller, getting a ball that's just above that balloon, weight and getting kids involved in that way. So I think that kind of under 10 level is where we can make a lot of upgrades. So we're working on kind of the ADM for that level right now and deploying that through kind of pilot systems.
Defining what's expected from 0 to 6, 6 to 9, 9
Yep.
to 12, maybe I'll give them and then communicating that to parents, to coaches, operators.
Yeah,
and
because
then-
I think right now it's kind of a free-for-all. It's like, here's some children, please help them keep a ball in the air.
Right.
And that's not the best way to go about it when we know, how kids develop from, that under 10 age. It's kind of 14 and then through 18.
Right. So that's an example of one sport taking a vertical approach to creating a better system. Again, Miriam, you're helping us think about the horizontal
Yeah.
strategy, a city by city strategy. Tell us about the Bill of Rights and where you think the opportunity is going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've been able to do with your team, Tom, is really take a look at the Bill of Rights as a kind of horizontal city by city strategy to create a legacy for children around play. And the bill is a really powerful, simple, unifying framework to be able to do that. It contains 8 kind of minimum standards for children around positive development, play, safety, joy. And so what we've been able to do over the last several months is 2 things. One is really understand the impact of the bill in the cities that have adopted it. And it is a wide range of cities, about 20, over the country, various sizes, demographics, locations. And also help think about a really tactical plan to encourage more adoption, especially in the 2-year period as we are gearing up for the next Olympic Games in Los Angeles, where there will be incredible international spotlight on the country, but also on sports and play.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And Cassidy, USA Volleyball, and the volleyball ecosystem is rallying around the Bill of Rights as well. In fact, I think we have a video message from Hugh McCutcheon, who is the Secretary General of the FIVB, which is the International Volleyball Federation. Could we play that, John?
Hello, my name is Hugh McCutcheon. I'm the Secretary General with the International Volleyball Federation. I'm also a former Olympic volleyball coach for the USA men and the USA women. I'm sorry I can't join you in person in Boston, but I wanted to share this message with you. We've been aware of Project Play for some time now, and in particular the Children's Bill of Rights. We think it represents a powerful opportunity to create more impactful, safe and inclusive spaces in youth sport. The normative rights that you've listed certainly resonated with our organization and align with our vision and our mission to grow the sport in a very healthy way that allows children to have access to all of the physical, mental and emotional benefits that sport provides. We see the widespread adoption of the Children's Bill of Rights in sport as something that is both aspirational and attainable. And to that end, we are planning to work with USA Volleyball to outline how an international federation and a national governing body can align to support the implementation of these rights in a country, with the hope that these subsequent lessons learned can help us to create similar initiatives around the world. I'll let Cassidy Lichtman share with you more about what that path might look like, but for now, know that we're extremely excited to see where this path takes us. Thank you, and on behalf of the FIVB, have a great conference, and we wish you all the best.
I want to contextualize what that is. So we've had the Children's Bill of Rights in Sports has been endorsed by more than 500, maybe 600 athletes, entities, individuals, most of the national governing bodies of sports, the U.S. Olympic Committee or otherwise. That is the first international federation to endorse the Children's Bill of Rights in Sports. And that, because they are an ecosystem actor, is a very important thing. And when Hugh took this job and called me and said, hey, what can we do? And we started talking about this, I said, you can endorse. He said, well, I don't just want to endorse. I want to make it meaningful. I want to work in one country, and let's start with the US, about getting all of the key actors in that ecosystem to think about, to reflect upon how well we honor the Bill of Rights and develop a set of actions against them. And that's where we open up the conversation with USA Volleyball, which has also endorsed it as well. So I'm extremely excited about this. I mean, Cassie, can you tell us a little bit about the path forward and for volleyball, how you're going to align with this?
Yeah, I'm super excited about it too. I mean, it's to have an international governing body, a national governing body. Youth sport, as we all know, is super fragmented, and one would hope if there's one thing we could align around, it's children's rights. So I think what we really want to do is convene the actors of this space, whether they're our collaborators or competitors or any kind of people working in youth volleyball, our coaches associations. We have 40 different regions within USA Volleyball, the athletes themselves, to convene those people to look at the Bill of Rights and look at the actual commitments we can make for each of our organizations. And that touches, so many parts of the country and so many kids that I think it could make a real difference.
It's tremendous. I can't wait for those conversations. Miriam, give us a sense. In your research,
Yeah.
you looked at the cities that have already adopted
Yeah.
the Bill of Rights. Can you give us a couple of examples that jump to mind about, how a city can make it not just a performative endorsement, which is valuable, helps
Yeah.
create the common language, but have actually begun to activate against it?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the mayor to be speaking today because I think Boston is a really interesting example. They're an endorser of the bill, and they've done some really exciting, impactful things around their youth sports ecosystem. So I'm looking forward to that. I won't spill the beans on Boston, but we did do a kind of full national view of cities, towns that have endorsed it, and really, I'm a storyteller in the social sector by trade, and this is where I get excited. So a couple of examples that I would highlight. I think Akron, Ohio is a really interesting example. The mayor did publicly endorse the bill, but went much further than that. And so Akron is a space where every nonprofit organization that is looking for funding from the city's sports and wellness fund has to endorse the bill and has to show demonstration of how the bill is incorporated in its strategy and operations. Chapel Hill, North Carolina is another really interesting example. The bill wasn't brought to the city by a local official. It was brought by a mom whose kid had had a terrible experience in the youth sports kind of ecosystem in the city and wanted to do something and heard about the bill and then brought it to local officials. And so that's where kind of the groundwork for support happened. And the bill is now included in every coach handbook at the start of every rec league year. Signage and endorsement around the bill is public in 13 spaces, both outdoor and indoor spaces across the city. And there's been a really kind of parent-led, community-led education campaign around the bill that includes spotlights in local media, in interviews and newspapers, et cetera. So another really interesting example. And then maybe I'll bring up the last of a few would be Tacoma, Washington. So it was the Park District, which I believe is the first park district on the West Coast, I think the third in the country to endorse the bill. And the Park District has used the bill as kind of the foundational planning guide for its policies around youth. That includes safety, that includes sports access, that includes coaching. And so very much viewed as kind of a foundational, critical enabler to how the city and the Park District really think about integrating a focus on children.
Yeah, fantastic. So, if your organization has yet to endorse the Bill of Rights in sports, please do. We have a desk set up out there. There's going to be a QR code at the end of the session today. Reach out to us. Let's continue to build the common language, the foundation upon which our very disjointed, very entrepreneurial, and I mean that in a good way, system can sit upon. So whether you're building an elite academy or a school program or a camp or whatever else it may be, go for it. But make sure you're checking the 8 boxes in the Children's Bill of Rights in Sports. That's the promise of building a better foundation in this country. So thank you so much. And your mayors as well. If you live in a particular city, bring it to them. Say we would like you to think about how to activate against the Bill of Rights in Sports. Connect them with us. We're happy to chat on it. So thank you, Cassidy. Thank you, Miriam. Very much appreciate it. And now I'd like to bring up Molly Kay from Nickelodeon for yet another exciting announcement.
Good morning to everyone in the room and everyone joining on the live stream. I'm Molly Kay, and I'm honored to be here at the Project Play Summit on behalf of Nickelodeon. I'd love to just take one moment to recognize any current or former Project Play champions that might be in the room today. If you could please stand. What an incredible and growing community. Thank you. Nickelodeon Our World is a global initiative focused on inspiring kids and giving them the tools to activate their individual and collective agency. For young people, building agency starts with confidence. Confidence in themselves and in their decisions, and it begins in simple, everyday moments. When a kid decides what they want to play or what they want to explore, they're building trust in their own voice. And from there, it only grows. When kids come together to create something new, like a club or a project, they're not just participating, they're starting to shape the world around them. That's collective agency, and that's incredibly powerful. We are so excited to celebrate the newest Project Play champions powered by Nickelodeon Our World. This cohort of 20 organizations and schools represents a diverse and inspiring network of leaders who are committed to putting kids in charge of their sports experiences. These new and meaningful commitments bring to life the Children's Bill of Rights in sports, ensuring that every child has an opportunity to play, to grow, and to lead in their own way. These champions are leveraging innovative, community-driven approaches from athlete safety initiatives to student-led programming and research to build healthier, more inclusive communities through the power of play. Thank you for championing young people, for building their confidence and making sure their voices are truly heard, while keeping joy and play and fun at the heart of it all. Thank you, and congratulations, 2026 Play Champions cohort. I would now like to welcome Chi Kim for a play talk.
Hi. I'm going to do something different for you all. I'm going to make you suffer, and then I'm going to bring you a little joy, but we're going to have complete agency over your own body. So we've talked about systems, PE, private equity. We're just going to go take it real down to basics, to your nose. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to stand up, because you have been sitting for a long time, and we're going to do it really quickly. I'm going to have you stand up. I'm going to have you contort as tightly as you can, any way you want. Make your muscles super, super tight, and then I'm going to have you hold your breath. Are you ready? Go. Hold it. Suffer a little longer. Tight. Hold your breath. And very slowly through your nose, I want you to release, exhale, come back, stand up slowly. And then I want you to reach your arms up. And then as you go down, I want you to exhale through your nose. And then I want you to have a seat. It's going to be the best 6 minutes of your life. And we're only going to focus on your nose and a couple of other things. So as you were inhaling deeply, what happened was your amygdala was taking over. That red spot, that's your amygdala. It's your stress response. And this is your brain under pressure. Wasn't huge pressure, but just enough. And what we want to do is actually start to think about things that we can actually control. You as coaches, athletes on the field, you can control two things: how you take in information and how your body responds to it. The dim region in the front, right here, if you look at this here, will be the prefrontal cortex. That's where decision making, your creativity, any of your emotion regulation. And it actually just goes quiet when your body is in stress response. The reason we're bringing this up to you is because you have an incredibly hard job. I just started hearing about AI and all the other things. Like, it's all us, it's all real, and it's going to be through the nose. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because there is a lot of research right now specifically about what we can do to train ourselves to regulate simply through our nose. The research actually is called, there's an optimal zone for performance. It's called the window of tolerance, where you can actually activate the amygdala but have enough tolerance where you're still being able to make good decisions. It's sort of like when you are coaching athletes, whether it's Pee-wee soccer or something else, and you could practice over and over and over again, and you think that they have the skills, and then all of a sudden it's game time and they just fall apart. It's not because of will or volition. Oftentimes it's because their amygdala is hijacking their ability to respond to a stimulus. So what we're going to do is it's really focusing on the neuroscience of how we can control the factors just purely based on nasal breathing. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to have you sit on the edge of your seat like something exciting is going to happen. You're going to sit on the edge of your seat, and you're going to sit up tall like a string is holding up your spine. The reason we're doing this is because we're going to elongate your spine. We're going to have soft shoulders back. It actually opens up your diaphragm, the actual muscle that helps you breathe. And I'm going to count you up and down, and you're just going to follow, but we're only going to use our nose. So you mouth breathers in the room, we're going to change you right now. All right, so in through the nose only. We're going to inhale 1, exhale 1. Only through the nose. Inhale 1, 2. Exhale 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2. Exhale 2, 1. Inhale 1. Exhale 1. And let your breathing go back to normal. If you have a small pool of saliva collecting inside your mouth, you've just activated your parasympathetic nervous system, and that's your rest and digest. And we've hijacked your brain for a minute with the amygdala. Now we've regulated it through nasal breathing, and it's the quickest and fastest way to go back into parasympathetic nervous system activation for homeostasis. And what we just did was actually use these neural pathways. The more you practice these breathing strategies, the more it's likely for you to help yourself first and your athletes second to co-regulate. All of us together, collectively in this room, co-regulated, the presence that you bring to your team, whether it's your work team or your sports team, the presence that you have, our parasympathetic nervous system, our activated and hijacked amygdala, is actually contagious. And that is in the literature. When you are high stress and high anxiety, it is spreads like wildfire. If you are calm, that's also contagious as well. So the whole goal of us doing nasal breathing and really being able to get back into our homeostasis is to connect our head and heart. And when the head and heart are connected, particularly in sports, it's responsiveness, relationships, and less reactivity. As you start to think about the ways you want to show up, I want you to remember one simple thing, and that's your nose. It doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but it will after today. And what I want you to just to remind you is, as 700 of you are in this room impacting the lives of other kids, that's me as a peewee. This is when softball, Little Miss Softball, no long pants, we slid like everybody else. This is when it was rough. But I just want you to know that my coach, Rich Trujillo, impacted my life when I was a kid. I still talk about him to this day as a 58-year-old woman. And I just want you to know, if anyone tries to monetize your nasal breathing, just back away. You have agency over that. No AI is going to take over, but we do have free resources for you at no charge. We have an app. I am so excited. If you can share these, we have a new launch. We call it Let's Play. And it's a series of animations that actually just talk about nothing, but it actually shows you how to nasal breathe. With that, I want to thank you.
Please welcome June Lee and Boston Mayor Michelle Wu.
Well, thank you for being here today, Mayor Wu. How's your day going?
As a parent, I don't know if any of you all have this experience. It feels like you have your first day at home, just getting the kids off in different ways. My baby started daycare now, so I did all that and then had a couple other meetings already, and now I'm in my free, happy time of the day when the kids are settled and I can be with all of you.
Well, thank you for being here today. We're, obviously here because we all care about youth sports. You have 2 kids, and so I guess I'm curious from the perspective of now someone who's now running the city, but also someone who moved to the city here during college. What struck you about Boston in particular, about how the relationship that the city has with sports and how sports affects the culture of the city when you moved here in the first place?
Yeah, I grew up in an immigrant family in Chicago and came out to Boston for college. And even growing up, it didn't really feel like we were necessarily rooted in one place because my family moved around a bunch of times. And we cheered. Aside from watching basketball every single game, because 1990s Chicago, that was instead of playing house, my siblings and I would play the Bulls. And I was Scottie Pippen. My brother was B.J. Armstrong. Someone was Horace Grant. Anyway, we had all our favorites. But when I came to Boston for college, that was 2003, 2004, and the Red Sox getting swept up in what was happening that season, breaking the curse. I like to take a little credit that finally once I arrived in Boston, we broke the curse. But how much passion the city has for knowing every detail of the teams, not just being there when they're winning, but there in every other year. It really defines the kind of grit and tenacity that Bostonians have in every part of their lives, and we let it all out when it comes to our sports teams and politics.
What do you think people outside of Boston don't necessarily understand about how sports provides culture and is the backbone of culture for Boston?
Whenever I'm out in the world outside of Boston, wherever I am, if it's a conference even outside of the US or going to visit my in-laws in New York or trying to go hiking in a certain place, in New England, you will always see someone wearing Boston sports gear, always, no matter what. And one thing that we are really proud of doing every single year in partnership with our teams is really cultivating that connection, again, not just when they're playing and during the season, but out in the community all throughout the year. So many of the Celtics players come and visit our schools, and they're very involved with renovating the courts out in the community or within our community centers. Every year with the Red Sox, we have what's called BPS Hat Day, where they design a special Red Sox hat with the colors that are unique only for every single Boston Public School student to be given a hat during the school day. And when they wear that hat, the superintendent of schools and I and Red Sox leadership are all there, and we tell them, you're part of our team in Boston. And when you put that hat on, you remember that there are people who care about you, that we're cheering for you, and we're all in this together. And it's really amazing. And then when you're out in the city, you can see who is a BPS student when they're wearing that hat. And so there's that sense of connection where the B or the C or the logo really is much broader than just that particular team and their place in the standings that year. It is who we are, and it is how we show up for each other.
How do you see the culture around the professional sports teams, which is what Boston, I think, is known for at this point, is the city's big cultural export? How do you see the culture around the professional sports trickle down as a parent now to the youth sports scene, and how I guess kids in the city relate to playing youth sports and doing this on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I have 3 kids now because so I have an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and now 1-year-old. And the boys are obsessed with soccer to the point where, you realize how young it really starts and people take their cues in. We were at a Red Sox game and someone handed the baby a baseball to hold, and she immediately put it on the ground and started kicking it around. Right? That's what you do, like her big brothers. And as a parent, you see both how important it is for our kids, how much it changes their lives to participate in youth sports, or the sense of growth and, of course, health and fitness and burning off all that energy, but also what it means to be part of a team, to show up for your teammates, even when you all are experiencing a setback or one of your teammates is going through something that is really challenging or really exciting. And so there's nothing like that. And that's why we want to make sure that every single family in Boston, every young person has access to that. And as a parent, I realized how complicated it is to actually get connected to those experiences. That's why we created our youth sports map and our youth sports hub and the facilities map, trying to, wherever possible, have a one-stop shop, because it was a full-time endeavor even to research where you could participate, how to get there, when the registration was. There are so many incredible free programs and or low-cost programs in Boston that volunteers, neighborhood groups, community organizations have been running for years and years without resources, without recognition. And our Let's Play Boston initiative has really been our commitment to say, we're signing the Children's Bill of Rights when it comes to sports. We are taking down every possible barrier, and we're getting everyone coordinated so we can all be greater than the sum of our parts.
What has surprised you about the youth sports experience, economy, all of it today? Because it's become such a monster over the course of the last, I would say, decade especially. Like, has anything surprised you about becoming a parent in this world?
It can feel like, and it makes me feel really old to say, well, back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. You had to just wait and get picked up. But one other place was it really felt before, years ago, that things were much more unstructured, and you kind of run around the neighborhood and listen to where the group of kids would be, and then you go over there and you all kick a ball around or play basketball. And these days, everything is moving towards more professionalized and therefore often more expensive, more selective opportunities for youth sports. And that's great. There are lots of incredible talent development pipelines now that exist, especially here in Boston. But it also means that if you don't know where to turn, you don't have the resources to spare, you can get left out of a shift in that direction. And that's why, through city government, through a commitment to really making sure that we're providing every opportunity for families to have the highest quality of life in Boston, that baseline to us includes access, affordable access, ideally free access to youth sports and arts.
I'm curious, Boston is in an interesting place where the city has changed a lot, especially since you've arrived in the city as a college student. It's become a lot more private. The city is, I think, less provincial than it has been in the past. And there's, in many ways, youth sports has had kind of a parallel track in terms of how the industry has been reshaped. I'm curious, from your vantage point as someone who understands the incentives of business leaders and is able to kind of help operate things in that way, what incentives do you see that you as a government leader can help shape to help make youth sports more accessible to people as it has become so privatized that might parallel what you've seen with the city as a whole beyond just the sports industry scene?
Yeah, I think these days it is all about easy, clear access to information. My kids will not settle for someone not knowing the answer to a question. I remember growing up, you ask why, and a parent might say, well, I don't know, or don't ask that, and that was that. These days, it's, well, Google it, right? Look it up, figure out what the answer is. How many trees are there in the world, or whatever the question is. And the same thing exists for where can I take my child just to play basketball for fun. how do I sign up for a Pee-wee program or flag football or cricket, whatever the opportunities are, the expectation is that there's a way to figure out how to do it and that you can get connected to it. And so for us, that means really understanding what the resources are and where they exist, not just within city government, but the overall sector, our public parks and playgrounds, in addition to, and community centers, in addition to YMCAs or Boys and Girls Clubs, in addition to neighborhood leagues that are operating their programming and getting it all in one place. And then it's being in constant communication and coordination with all of those long time neighborhood volunteers to say, how do we help support you so that we can deliver even more and do what we've been doing but reach even more young people, or do it even better and have greater impact. And we've heard training for coaches has been one thing that could really help enhance the offerings, even from the private or nonprofit side, that are available. Maintenance and thinking carefully about what facilities need to be added for particular sports in different parts of the city. And resources in general of communications and helping people understand how to sign up, or getting a sign-up process, not just on paper where you have to mail in the form and the check, but available online and for people to do it from home. All of that, and fostering a sense of camaraderie. One of the small things that we did also, in addition to creating these resources, was to host an all-winners, championship teams banquet at the city. So we have a Mayor's Cup that is the city's official competition for various sports, right? Baseball, hockey, soccer, all happen at different times of the year, track and field, basketball. And once a year, we invite every team that has won the Mayor's Cup in any sport to come and receive a championship ring that they get from the city. It looks great. It's just like the pros. And we have little players starting out at the very beginning of their soccer careers alongside high school state champions, and that sense of mentorship, bringing different neighborhoods together. It's simple sometimes, just being in the same room and creating opportunities for relationship building outside of formal settings also goes a really long way.
What are the specific kind of policy incentives that you think can help make just youth sports more accessible to people? I mean, there's obviously a cultural element to it, but what are the specific policy levers that you think that government can or should use to make sports more accessible to more kids?
Well, first is having the right data on what the demand is and where the gaps are. And that's geographically, that's by sport, and that's also by age group. One of the findings that we had seen in our surveying and our research was that the middle school years, 11 to 14, are really a place where young people start to drop off, especially girls, from playing sports. And once they drop off, it's hard to get them back in again. So really targeting programs that particularly reach out to support and speak uniquely to that age group with the resources that are needed. We also have the ability to find young people where they're most comfortable with their peers, which is at school. And so ensuring that Boston Public Schools is a central hub for programming that's connected to the school, whether it's school sports teams or my boys do the neighborhood soccer league, and they also do Boston Scores, which is a nonprofit that partners with various BPS schools and then runs a citywide league connected to those schools with after school games and all of that. And so if we're able to find our young people where they already are and then either directly transport them to the opportunities or have them on site, that's important. And then it's about facilities overall, right? White Stadium has been a big topic of conversation. This is the city's only youth sports stadium. It's been in existence since 1949, 10,000 seats, but basically had been falling apart for decades. And we have now found a way to build a partnership, renovate it entirely. Boston Public School students will be playing in the best public school facilities, athletic facilities in the country, and it will be the home co-housing our professional women's soccer team with mentorship and opportunities and connections right there. So win-win all around.
As you've seen, like, as you've become a parent and seen all of this kind of this industry evolve, what has surprised you about the experience of being a parent in this world, and also the cost of trying to navigate everything?
It's so much pick up and drop off time, so much. Also the laundry. We just came up with a system of where to put your shin guards, and no one can find that last soccer sock when you need it before the game. So now I have baskets for all of these things all over the house. Everyone has their own stuff. So, there is a level of dedication that goes into it, of course, by our young players, but also from the entire village that has to support them to make that happen. The coaches and the volunteers who show up, and the parents who are bringing snacks to the games, and everybody finding time to get to practice, and all of this. And if city government, if the public sector can just lighten the load a little bit by creating more facilities, so you never have to worry about getting knocked out, squeezed off of field time, or the lights not being on long enough at night, or access to electricity for what you need. If the maintenance of the field, so that the drainage system works properly and you don't have to cancel practices if you've gotten a little bit of rain, all of that is hopefully the city government's often a job where when you do the best job you can, it's when no one notices you. Things are seamless. Things are not an extra burden or hoop to jump through. And it's been, one of the most rewarding parts of being a parent is watching your little ones grow into glimpses of that future version of themselves that you're starting to see emerge, and going through the experiences of practicing hard and being on a team, and then seeing the emotional ups and downs of a game. I mean, I'm just glad that the media are not following me when I'm on the sidelines and ready to go. It's amazing, and it's something that we want every single family to know is part of their birthright here in Boston.
My last question for you is, you endorsed the Children's Bill of Rights. What led you to endorse it, and what do you think people in the private sector, working in government, when they're thinking about youth sports, what do you think they can take away from it?
Well, the answer with this, as with everything else, is my incredible team identified this as an opportunity. So shout out to Tyreek and to our Chief of Human Services, Jose, and to all of the team members who've been working on getting city government to be more responsive and proactive about youth sports. I'm incredibly grateful. Can you give a round of applause to all the city staff members? But it really was a no-brainer when they identified this, and it's because it puts down on paper in one place for everyone to see how dedicated we are to clearing away every possible barrier, that there is good and there is benefit to every single young person who has the chance to participate, and that there are active things that we can do around training, facilities, removing other barriers, so that we can have a role in continuing to improve access day by day. And that keeps us on track with the goals that we set as a city. There are always lots of competing priorities, but once something is there as an official commitment, it is our guiding star. And it's also been the chance to bring so many of our neighborhood partners and organizations together to say everybody's getting on the same page. This is a clear set of values, and then guidance that we can all use as we are improving our own programs from wherever we sit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mayor Wu. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, June. Thanks for all that you do.
Great job. Amazing. Check. Mike. Check. There we go. Make some noise. Couple quick reflections. I had a couple of through lines, and I want to send y'all a very strong message, but I had a conversation with an amazing individual. Her name is Spencer, and we had a connection, and we said, to do this work, you got to have a heart. No one's in this room because you don't want to be here. You're here because you have a heart to do it. You're present and you're living your purpose because you're doing this on purpose. AI is here. Nothing you can do about it. Figure out how to adopt. Maybe we can find ways to regulate it. It's needed, but make sure you learn as much as you can because it's not going nowhere. We know the difference between VC, private equity now. You know, Catherine, I agree with a lot of stuff that she said. Jay had a little sweat on his collar, but he held it down for private equity. Held it down. One through line two from yesterday and today, local sports is important. I want to tell you a quick story. Local sports saved my life. Parks and Rec saved my life. Let me tell you why. Thank you. When I joined football, basketball, baseball, soccer, I played all of them at Parks and Rec. It was like $25, right? I want to tell you something. All of the gang members there's around 40-something gangs where I grew up, all in a circle. And but I built a relationship with them by playing sports. And because we all had access to sports, we all became friends. Whether you was blood or Crip or Latino or whatever you are, you got to relate to the person next to you and go through the same experiences that they went through. And so when you see each other in the street, guess what will happen? Oh, what's up, Sticks? What's good? You good? All right, cool. It was no beef. It was safety. That's what Parks and Rec does for individuals like me growing up in the hood. So it's more than just all of the money and everything. It's the safety, it's the protection, it's the familiarity. But opportunity costs, I want to explain that really fast. People got to pay something because it's a proven fact. If it's free, people, they take advantage of it. But when they got to pay something, they should, $20, something. I got $20. You know, neuroscience, I love that really quick. It takes 150 to 250 milliseconds. In 1 second, it's 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second, but it takes 250 milliseconds to make a decision. So that means you have all of those milliseconds before you actually react. So I'm telling you, we all have enough time to just breathe, and before we act, think, process, then act. Mayor Wu is doing amazing. We have something in common. Both of our families thought we were the Chicago Bulls, even though I'm from LA. But who was Michael Jordan? That's what I was trying to figure out. She didn't say who was Mike. I mean, you know. I know I'm on the clock, but I got to say this because this is not against anyone, and I want to make this statement before I get into the next comment, is if you are in black communities, serving black communities, or you are of the black community, or you have a love for black communities in sports, I want to make this next message to you and for the support of it. And I pulled reports from Project Play to give this. Black-led nonprofits operate with about 76% less unrestricted funding, compared to nearly 70% of white-led nonprofits, so the organizations closest to the problems are often the furthest from the resources. At the same time, football, basketball, NBA, NFL, there's 70% black athletes, but in baseball and soccer, it has drastically declined. It went from 18% in the 90s in baseball to 6% in baseball of black players. And soccer is even less. Why? Pay to play. It's costing like $3,000 to join travel ball. Aspen Institute has a report that black youth rely more on school sports. 70% of black youth athletes play through school compared to 42% of white athletes. White youth are more likely to play outside their community and travel systems, and 35% of white players versus 20% black players. It's not black kids stopped being talented, it's just that the opportunity became privatized. At the same time, this happens in business, philanthropy, and economic development. When access costs money, relationships, and infrastructure, entire communities, all cultures, get locked out before the game even starts. I tell you that message to have it in your heart, no matter what communities you serve, especially if you're serving black, brown, people of color communities, understand the gap and the disparities that exist and let's find structures. Let's build a system of heft, housing, healthcare, education, financial literacy, food, transportation. And if you can see heft, that's careers, we can build an amazing America and American and international economy all together, because it takes all of us. Now back to regularly scheduled programming. Shout outs to my guy Tom. He's doing an amazing job. All of the crew from Project Play, Aspen Institute. We have an exciting announcement. We have 2 additional forthcoming State of Play community reports. This first report by Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation in partnership with AMB Sports and Entertainment will focus on the Metro Atlanta region. The second report, graciously supported by the Sherwood Foundation, is looking at sports and play in Omaha public schools in the city of Omaha, Nebraska. You can clap it up for that. You got the map, you see where we at, you know. Project Play doing its thing, scaling. It's all about bringing everybody together. It takes collaboration, cooperation to achieve true successful outcome. It takes qualitative and quantitative coming together. That's the plus and minus. We're atoms, right? Everyone is made up of atoms, plus and minus. That's not bad and good. That's just polarity. We don't even exist without both sides. So we need all sides to come together, produce the best impact, take our milliseconds and, no, I'm just playing. Got to breathe through your nose. And make the best possible outcome happen for all of us. So, that concludes the first plenary. We have only a few minutes until the next plenary. I suggest you just stand up, breathe, stretch. Everybody don't leave, because we're going to get started right away. But if you got to go to the John, that's what y'all call it, the John? We don't use that in Watts. We be like, I got to go to the bathroom. And it's a restroom. It ain't even a bathroom. But, you know, you got to go use the John, go use it, come back, get your seat back. Don't take nobody's seat. I'm glad this is an amazing day. We're going to keep this thing going. One more time, make some noise for yourself. See y'all soon.
Welcome back to the final plenary of the 2026 Project Play Summit. To kick us off, please welcome Brent Richard for his Play Talk.
Good morning. I think after the break is better because you're caffeinated, but we're also still standing up and moving. Good morning. Thank you. I'll tell you what, this group is all in on impact. It's energizing. The last 2 days, it's my first Project Play. It has been exciting. It's been motivating. When Tom Ferry approached me months ago about the Captain's Leadership Academy, this was the easiest yes I think I've had the opportunity to give at IMG Academy. Maybe only second to, he then started talking about the Children's Bill of Rights in sports. I said, of course. I got halfway done reading it and said every organization that operates in youth sports has to sign that, and if they don't sign it, we need to question why. So I'd encourage everybody, if you haven't done that, go sign it, get it out in your local communities. I also wanted to just acknowledge the hard work, ideas to action. I've met a lot of entrepreneurs in this room. It is really hard to take ideas and turn them into action. So Tom, Pete, Vince from Aspen, Dan, Jeff from the Heisman, Tim and Charlie, former Heisman winners here. Let's give them a big round of applause. We are very excited to be on this journey with the Aspen Institute. Impact. So I want to talk about impact. Transformational change in college sports and the impact it is having on youth sports. I have this analogy I use. I compare it to an earthquake happening out in the middle of the ocean, right? You don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't feel it until the waves come to shore. And it can be devastating. And you don't always have warning. And people tell me I've been told I'm a little dramatic about that. That's kind of a tough analogy about college sports and the impact on youth sports. And my response is always a question. How many 10U baseball games have you been to? There's a supply and demand imbalance. There we go, thank you. What we've seen, we've done a lot of research on this, in the last 2 decades, we've seen 5 to 10x growth in the intensity and intent to play college sports from youth sports. The NCAA just has not been able to keep pace for decades. The last 5 years have been really, really hard to layer on top of that trend. We have seen, first of all, it started with COVID. COVID happened. Thankfully, the right answer was college kids got an extra year of eligibility, right? Most of us remember this. Did they add roster spots in college when that happened? No. Who got left out? High school kids. By the way, not just the seniors. People think it's just the seniors. It was class after class after class that were impacted by that. Transfer portal. Kid comes out of the transfer portal, where are they not coming from? High school. Extended eligibility, they're getting older, staying longer. Not bad for the college kids. Who gets hurt? Are roster spots growing as we do this? They're not. Hundreds of programs cut. If you're watching the news the last couple of weeks, you're seeing it in the news. All at the same time, the value of some of these spots, especially for a few sports, NIL revenue sharing, is going up. So here you have the thing that people want going this direction, and the opportunity to get it going the wrong direction. Unfortunately, I'm here to tell you all that there's only 2 things that can happen, and only 2. And this is basic economics. I've thought about getting an economics professor into this conversation. Either supply has to go up, or demand has to come down. And demand coming down is a lot of the things that we've been talking about. From my perspective, from where we sit, we can draw direct lines from the pressure at the top and challenges all the way down to 8, 9, 10-year-old travel, focus on travel over development, burnout, a lot of other issues. At its core, it just comes down to you are going to get priced out with your time or your money or both. And if we want to kind of know where this goes over the next few decades, that unfortunately is one option. Who likes that option? That's a good test. You're listening. Supply going up. That sounds like a better option. I am still struck that there are not people pounding the table in youth sports about supply going up in college sports. The first challenge I see is that college sports is built on a one team, one sport, one field model. That is NCAA athletics. Most of you in this room know that that would destroy all of youth sports, bankrupt the entire thing if that's the way that it was run. We need more teams. We need more teams in sports where the kids are already playing. We have talked to Congress. We have talked to the NCAA. Could we change NCAA rules to allow us to have more teams, to accommodate more competitive play in college? It is, I'm sorry to say, really, really hard to make that change. Enterprising schools, High Point, University, others are taking on a new playbook. They're saying it doesn't need to be NCAA sanctioned. If we recruit student athletes, we give them proper coaching, we give them a jersey to wear, they're interested. They're creating development squads. We call them silver squads. This is a wonderful idea. We should be doing this over and over again in college sports. Other universities, University of Toledo is saying our varsity fields are underutilized. That's supply for youth sports. They've opened up their fields to youth sports community. These may not be the only answers, but they're really good answers to try to grow supply. I'm going to focus on one statistic, 83%. Aspen Institute is really good at listening to families. 83%. We asked national survey families as college sports evolves, what do you want to see most? We said money, we said employment, a laundry list of things. 83% of families said expanding college roster opportunities is their number one priority, and there's not a lot of talk about that in Washington, the NCAA, or in Congress, and I think that that is a problem. So I'll leave you with this. I like the frameworks that I've heard from a lot of folks, and especially at Aspen Institute. So I'll ask a show of hands again. I'll give you a simple framework for this. What if we all tried to double competitive sports in college, taking the pressure off the youth sports ecosystem and keeping millions in the game for longer? Does that sound good? Thank you.
Please welcome Vince Minhares to the stage.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Vince Minhares, and I'm excited to, also a little bit disturbed to keep having this conversation, if I'm being honest. Raise your hand if you have torn your ACL, in your ligament in your knee. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you know someone who has. Yeah. Look, if you've been paying attention to us, or if you maybe heard Dr. Kate Ackerman speak yesterday, you know that ACL injury is something that is a real problem in youth sports and high school sports. It's an issue that we've been spending a lot of time and attention on really for the last 2 or 3 years as part of a partnership with the Hospital for Special Surgery. The National ACL Injury Coalition has been an important initiative to try to raise awareness and improve education on a disturbing trend, which is this rising rate of injury. The interesting thing about our conversation today is that there is action happening, and we're excited to share some of that with you. And there's things that you can do. I'm not going to stop. We are not going to stop addressing this topic because we know it's really important to the health and safety of our athletes. To help us do that today, I have 2 very distinguished panelists who I'm very excited to have on stage. We had a very nice dinner last night. I think we are now friends. We have shared headwear attire, Ryan and I.
Not by choice.
Not by choice. Dr. Ryan Lingor and Dr. Cindy Chang I want to introduce them in an important way because both are primary care sports medicine physicians. They take care of the whole athlete holistically from head to toe. And one of the things that's really important to them in their work is that they try to keep you away from the surgeon and off the operating table. Of course, they also have major chops here. Ryan is the medical director and team physician for the New York Rangers and has years of experience in the NFL with the Dolphins, Patriots, and Jets. Let's give Ryan a round of applause. Dr. Sydney Chang inspires me every time I get to spend time with her. Many different experiences, including the head team physician for UC Berkeley, go Bears.
Bears.
The chief medical officer for the London 2012 Games. She oversaw medical care in the Wubble, if anyone knows what the Wubble is, the WNBA bubble, and she is the chief medical officer for the National Women's Sports Soccer League. Give a round of applause for Cindy Chang. I'm just going to give a little bit lay of the land, and then we're going to get into this because we don't have a lot of time. This injury is growing. We've seen a 26% increase in the annual average incidence rate since 2007, thanks to our data from Daedalus and the High School Rio project. 32% increase in girls over that time period, and an 80% increase in sports like lacrosse and volleyball. That's really bad. Female athletes cutting and landing sports are the most at risk, in case you didn't know. The positive thing, and what we've been saying for some time, is that we have 3 decades of research showing that something called neuromuscular training, which improves lower body strength and control, can dramatically reduce the risk of this injury. We're talking anywhere from 50 to 80% reduction in a lot of controlled studies. The problem that we have is pretty straightforward. Even though we know these solutions exist, we don't do them. Studies of coaches show that just 1 in 5 actually implement injury prevention programs, and somewhere like 1 in 10 implement them as designed. This is our issue. We got to figure out what's happening here and how to stop it. My question to you, and I'll start with you, Ryan, what's going on here and why does this injury keep happening?
Well, so the ACL injury epidemic isn't a mystery. It's more of a training deficit. And I'm going to ask on this slide, who knows what's wrong with this slide here? Anybody? Feel free to shout it out. Yeah, exactly, the knees. So you see how the knees are kind of buckling in there? So this is Robert Griffin III, and this is a combine video of landing from a jump. And so athletes who sustain non-contact ACL injuries commonly have 3 movement patterns that we see. One is the knee valgus, where the knees are kind of buckling in when they're landing. Number 2 is a relative hamstring muscle deficit. And 3 is an over-reliance on the quads when you're landing or pivoting at high rates of speed. And so these are training variables that can be corrected with a neuromuscular training deficit. And we've known about this for 25 years. So it's not a gap in knowledge at this point. It's more of a gap of implementation.
Okay, Cindy. So Ryan says it's a gap of knowledge and implementation, not a gap of knowledge, a gap of implementation. Like, what do you think is going on here?
So if you've been here yesterday, we talked about how research takes 17 years before it gets translated to the public. And the problem is that there's a lot of confounding variables. And Ryan and I, even physicians are confused. Like you hear, it's hormones. What are we going to do? Put every girl on oral contraceptive pill to regulate their hormones? No. It's a Q angle. Well, what are we going to do about that? And so then people get frustrated, right? Like you feel like you can't control anything. But what we can control is we can control the training. To avoid this, because he burned out of the NFL. He tore an ACL, right? His second ACL in the NFL, his first during college.
I think it's a really important point, and the thing that I want to share today is that there is action starting to happen. If you've been paying attention to the national dialogue on ACL, you've probably heard about Project ACL, which was a collaboration between the NWSL, Nike, and others to explore more research. We heard from Kate and the WISP group, lots of interesting research happening. I want to highlight the national governing bodies and states that are now taking action. So folks like USA Lacrosse have developed a national injury prevention program that they're implementing. US Soccer has made ACL injury education a requirement now from the D license and above. That is a big win for this field. AYSO and Cedars-Sinai have developed an age and stage-based neuromuscular training program for kids that starts in elementary school and works its way up. And very, very interestingly, the state of California has introduced a resolution calling on the state departments of education and others to explore implementation of this neuromuscular training across the state in youth sports. This is the first state action that we've seen on the issue of ACL injury, and frankly, it's exciting. But I would ask my panelists who have been in this field for so long, like, what's your reaction to this? Cindy.
Well, it's about damn time. Because here's the deal, right? The exciting opportunities for youth sports landscape, especially for girls with more flag football teams, the problem is, what are we going to see? Flag football is a cutting, pivoting sport. We're already seeing more ACLs. Ultimate frisbee. You know, we've already talked about soccer, hoops, etc. But even amongst you, with your family picnic games, or now picking up pickleball, even if you're a swimmer or some other sport that's not a landing, pivoting sport, you are at risk of tearing your ACL if you are not strong enough and you don't have the proper mechanics to play, right? Besides the Achilles tear and everything else that we all get in our age groups now. So I do think that it's time. We have to act now, and this is the conversation that we're having, is how do we implement it within our own ecosystems?
Ryan, thoughts on seeing these major institutions take action?
Well, what the NWSL and Project ACL is doing matters because of the kind of signal it sends down to the lower organizations. When professional organizations talk, the youth levels listen. And with the American Youth Soccer Association and Cedars, what they're doing creates these standard prevention protocols that reaches millions of athletes. Mm-hmm. And that is a public health intervention that creates these things, create a proof of concept that other organizations and leagues should be able to follow pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if folks understand the real severity of this injury, but you know, you're not just talking about a 9 to 12 month surgery recovery. You're often talking about a 2-year recovery, which is right. I mean, we're talking about 2 years, psychological toll. There's a financial burden that a number of families also face, particularly the cost of physical therapy. Somewhere between 3 and 5 families experience financial burden. And then there's the long-term osteoarthritis risk, 7 times more likely to need your knee replaced. This is for real. This is a very real, very serious injury, and it's good to see some action happening. So then, okay, what are we asking the field to do? And this is the question for the two of you in terms of your guidance to the audience in thinking about how they can help. We say make neuromuscular training a priority. Like, Ryan, what does that actually mean for the folks in the audience?
So what we're asking is 30 to 60 minutes a week divided across different sessions of focusing on gluteal muscle recruitment, hamstring strength, and in order to help change the mechanics when somebody is in a high demand sport.
Yeah.
Right, we talk about this time, like when are the coaches going to integrate it into the time? How do you implement this program in your league, at your university setting, et cetera? And what I would say is you need to involve all stakeholders in this conversation of how you're going to implement this, right? From athletic trainers, who are the ones that your ADs and coaches trust, all the way to parents, right? The coaches, everyone, because if you involve all stakeholders, everyone's invested because they were part of that decision of how you're going to implement this program. So please think about how you would do that. The other thing is truly, when we involve all stakeholders, I think that we can do it. And the one thing I want to emphasize is, you know, my 2 kids, they played a myriad of sports. And it was like, go home and juggle 100 times in a row. Okay, I get it. But boy, you could also do some of this neuromuscular training at home as homework, and we can talk about how you can implement that. But there's ways to integrate it into their training, homework at home, that you could do with your children as well.
And I'll just add, so if you go to the National ACL Injury Coalition website, and the QR code will take you to something called the Pledge, which I'll mention in a second, there are a lot of existing programs that are free. We're not asking you to necessarily design a new program. There are many existing programs that are out there. The 11 Plus is, a lot of folks probably know about the 11 Plus. It is the most studied medical intervention in history, sports medicine intervention in history. And it's been around for 15 years. We have a link to it on our website. It is free, and it can be done today. These are the kind of programs that we need kids to be doing. That being said, there is a conversation about not just implementing these programs, but thinking about quality movement and athlete development, particularly in childhood. We've heard a little bit about, what's the relationship between injury prevention and something like free play, particularly in childhood. The conversation around let your kid jump off that tree. Like, where does this fit in, Ryan?
I think we've seen that athletes who specialize in sports younger than the age of 14 develop a limited movement vocabulary, and when they never develop this functional literacy, they have a narrower spectrum of a higher vulnerability when they're in a sports-specific situation with high demand sports. And so that leads to, not just ACL injuries, but all injuries. And so I think that the focus, at least at the local level, is, first targeting varsity head coaches, athletic directors, and people that are trying to build a program. Because what they'll see is that when you get kids in these programs, you have less injury rate, you have a better talent pool, you have more athletic kids, and that will help in the retention of sports as they get into the high school levels.
We want to develop good movers, kids who move well. And moving well, landing under control and on balance comes through this combination of many things, including how you're developing your body in childhood. But another important part of this, and Cindy, I'll turn to you, is this question, research, access to resources, access to the weight room and training. One of the things we know is a big attention to questions of gender and access to resources that allow girls to develop well in the way that many of the resources for boys do. Can you just talk about this issue?
I think it's improving. I will say that. We all remember that picture that was taken at the NCAA women's basketball tournament. It was the weight room that was offered to the women teams competing in the NCAA versus the men's. And I was talking to Ryan about it in terms of the access and resources, even in the Wubble, to the WNBA players when I was there compared to what the NBA players had. I do believe it's changing. It's changing because of voices like yours that are asking for that. But I do think that that's something that we still have to pursue is, the stepping stone. It's like we're going to cover a women's sport as a stepping stone to a men's sport, or we're going to coach a girls' team as a stepping stone to a boys' team. Because of different reasons, we want girls and boys, all genders, want to have that equal access to facilities and to quality resources, from strength and conditioning coaches down to athletic trainers. The ATs at schools or leagues, they're usually focused on American football, and that's it, and not all the other sports. So that is something that we need to put up a flag about and say, hey, let's put a spotlight on that. And can I just reflect quickly, Vince?
Yeah, of course.
When we're talking about let your kid jump off a tree, and again, reasonable height of a tree, right? We got to be careful about that. When we talk about physical education, I'm in California. We all know that PE classes are being put to the side because of these AP classes and all this academic. But at the elementary school level, Ryan and I were talking, and Vince, at the elementary school level, we shouldn't be focused on competitive modules like where you're learning how to hit a baseball or something, right? Because that is going to exclude and make kids feel like they're not physically literate. They don't want to be out there because they feel like they're uncoordinated. Put together PE modules in elementary school where you're working on functional movement patterns. Our elementary school in Berkeley, California, which is great, did circus arts. It was fabulous. So that type of stuff, that's where we need to bring that down into that level. Sorry.
That's all right. And I mean, Ryan, do you want to just maybe make a comment as well about the issue of re-injury, which I know is something that we were very concerned about?
Yeah, by the time that I see somebody in the office and they have an ACL tear, the prevention models have already failed them. And my concern is that what's going to happen to that person long term, they're less likely to engage in and return to that sport than boys. They're less likely to engage in other sports activities and activities as an adult, which leads to other complications from an ACL tear, osteoarthritis, obesity. And this is truly a public health crisis, and the people in this room have the power to help with that.
Yeah. Look, you could see the messages that we're sending to you. We have to close the panel, and I know that we could keep talking about this for a much longer time, but I want to leave with you a few things. Number one, we need to do these neuromuscular training programs. They exist. Find the ones that work for you and do them with your clubs and your coaches. There are people who can help you do that. Reach out. Number two, this ACL pledge, I'm going to ask everyone in this room at some point today to take that QR code. You did receive this flyer in your bag, or go to the ACL pledge on our website. Sign your name. We will not spam you, I promise you, but we want more people to recognize this issue. And number three, we are going to be doing a webinar on May 26th. Thank you, Injure Free. We're going to dive into this issue in a lot more depth. But thank you very much, and we look forward to continuing to work on this issue with all of you.
Please welcome Binta Niambi Brown.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I want to tell you a little bit about a new friend of mine, Mr. Tim Brown. I think many of you know him already, but let's just go over a little bit of the highlights. Tim is one of only 10 human beings on this planet who has won both the Heisman and is also a Pro Football Hall of Famer. That makes him, hang on. The Heisman fraternity is already very small. That makes you part of one of the most elite leadership fraternities on earth. 10 members. Before you were known as Mr. Raider, before you were a Hall of Famer, before you were the first wide receiver in the history of college football to win the Heisman, you were the youngest of 6 children growing up in Dallas, Texas, South Dallas. Your father worked
There's
in...
a difference. There's a difference.
Which is why we want to point that out. Your father worked in construction. Your mother was a woman of deep faith who made sure that you got to church on Sunday, instilling structure and discipline.
Wednesday, Friday, all day Sunday, yes. All day Sunday.
And if I'm correct, she also kept you from playing football your freshman year. But somehow you snuck onto that team and ended up playing.
Well, my freshman year, I played, but I wasn't on the varsity team. I was in the marching band, so I was going to all the varsity football games. And then the next year I made the varsity team, and she thought I was still playing in the band. And I had a great first month, and they named me sophomore sensation, and all the people, all of her friends were calling like, Timmy's in the paper. So she's looking in the life section, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? And I was like, Ma, you probably want to check the sports page. And in the high school section, there was my picture. And she was more mad about that than I think she was about if I was in the life section or whatever. But she was a woman of deep faith, still is a woman of deep faith, and thought football was the devil's workshop, really did. And wanted no parts of me playing sports. And I still don't know what my dad did, but whatever he did, it worked. It allowed me to keep playing football.
So let's talk a little bit more about growing up and your foundation, your formation. You've said in a handful of different places that the way you were raised literally saved your life. When you say that now, you're 20 years out of the league, what do you mean by that? And how does that figure into your style of leadership?
Well, I think that you know, I had a mom who, like we mentioned earlier, who was dead set on us being in church in some kind of way. So literally Wednesday, Friday, and we would leave at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning and wouldn't get home till 9 o'clock on Sunday night. I
See,
mean,
that's why for me being Catholic
yeah,
worked out
right.
very
No,
nicely.
we definitely weren't Catholic, that's for sure. But that way of life taught me something, you know, and you know, now I live the same life, you know what I mean? And we don't do Wednesday and Friday, and we don't do all day Sunday, but I mean, we are church people, you know, and I just think the life that I had or have, if I didn't have that part, it would be a little crazier. It'd just be, you know, there's just so much out there that's at your fingertips that if you don't have something to lock you in, I think you can go astray, you know.
So having that foundation, having that formation, the discipline, the rigor, a lot of people, you know, as we think about institutions today, those sorts of institutions don't necessarily hold the same sway over a lot of our young people in terms of leadership development. You had a moment in 1993, Howie Long, one of your teammates, in the locker room, he says to you, "I'm retiring." And he asked you to take over.
No, he told me.
He told you. Okay,
Yes,
all
there
right.
was a difference, yes.
He told. So talk to us about how that furthered you in terms of your thinking about your commitment towards others, and you know, just so that everybody here knows, it was for the Athletes and Entertainers for Kids organization, so a mentorship organization.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, Howie Long was looking for me, yelling and screaming, and I didn't know why Big Guy was yelling and screaming at me, but I didn't want to see him at that particular moment. And but when he found me, literally picked me up and said, you know, Elise Kim is going to call you. Answer the phone. And I did the smart thing and said, yes, sir. And so, and she called, and you know, I've been working with that organization ever since, you know, since '93. And you know, it wasn't something that I had really thought about. I hurt my knee in '89, and I was really trying to get back, you know, into the groove. I made the Pro Bowl, all that good stuff my rookie year. Now I have a knee that the doctor is saying I got 5 years and I may be done. So I was really trying to get the most out of my football career that I could. And here I am in my 5th or 6th year. I have Howie Long telling me, you need to do something different. And it literally changed my life because I hadn't looked at that before. I realized all the similarities that I had with the kids that I was talking to because, you know, if not for, you know, my mom and dad being at the house, I don't know, I could have been in the same situation that some of these kids were in. So I felt like it was a program that was meant to be for me to be involved in. And again, I've been involved with it ever since '93, so.
And before that, you know, just going back through, I mean, you've been, and tell me if I've got this wrong, but my understanding is that you have been a captain of almost every team you served on. There's one team and one moment when you weren't the captain.
Yeah.
And that happened to coincide with the year that you won the Heisman.
It did.
So what happened?
Well, the great late Lou Holtz, God rest his soul for sure, brought me in and said, hey, look, I only want 4 captains. Of course, you were voted captain, but I don't want you to be a captain. He said, I think you can have a bigger effect on this team if you're not a captain, because you're up for the Heisman, everybody's going to be asking for your interview every week. But he said, we have guys here that if they became captains, it would change their lives. And I don't want to name names because that has happened. You know, the guys who were captain that year are doing some incredible things in life at this particular point. And they always go back to, well, I was a captain at Notre Dame. I was a captain at Notre Dame, you know. And so Coach has always called me the greatest teammate he ever had, right? Because he ever coached, because I was unselfish enough to allow that to happen. But this is a guy who told me I was going to win the Heisman after 2 years, so whatever he said, I was going to do. And certainly him saying that this would help the team, I thought that was the right thing to do at the time.
So let's talk a little bit more about Lou, Coach Holtz. You said also that without him, you wouldn't have ever won the Heisman.
No, without
What,
doubt.
what was it about the way he led, and what is it that you learned that translated into, I mean, obviously we know about the storied Heisman moments. That's one thing, that's on-field performance. But the Heisman is about more than being an elite athlete and performer. It's about character. It's about the person you are. It's about how you lead. So what was it about Lou, Coach Holtz, the way he led you, his I don't want to say interruption, but the way he was integrated into your life as an athlete that led to your Heisman?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One, when I left to go to the University of Notre Dame, my mom and dad told me, hey, boy, there's no future in football for you. You go up there and get that education and get on back home. Yes, ma'am, yes, sir. The very first time I touched the ball at the University of Notre Dame, I fumbled the opening kickoff, right? So I sort of agree with my mom and dad. There was no future in football for me, right? So my next 2 years, I was just a guy. I was playing. I was on time to graduate. I was playing. I was on time to graduate. I was happy. Everything. I thought this was big time college football. This is what it was all about. Coach gets fired. Jerry Fouts gets fired. Coach Holtz comes in. After 2 days of practice, he pulls me over and asked me a litany of questions of, why they weren't featuring me. Was it drugs? Was it women? Was it grades? You tell me what it was, son. It's like, none of those things for sure. And I told him, I said, look, my mom and dad, he was like, son, you can have both.
Yeah.
And nobody had really told me that. But then he said, again, 2 days after spring ball, into spring ball, I think you can win the Heisman Trophy next year. I literally thought somebody had said,
2 days after
2
spring
days
ball.
after 2 days of spring ball. I literally thought somebody else had walked in the room. I turned around because I thought somebody else had came in the room. But every day for the next 2 or 3 weeks, he would bring me in and show me what I was doing. He told the media I was the most intelligent football player he had ever coached. I told everybody that wasn't that big of a compliment. He came from Arkansas and Minnesota, so it wasn't that big of a compliment.
Yeah, but how many other football players were also the editor of their school newspaper?
I get that, but my mindset was such on, I'm going to get this education, I'm going to go back home, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Then all of a sudden, he was telling me to think that I can have both. Obviously, I was doing something on the field already that he saw something in me, but I didn't have that. I may have been confident, but I didn't have that belief. And I think there's a difference between having confidence and having belief. And once I got the belief, literally everything went through the roof after that.
So you one of your phrases you share a lot with folks is conceive, believe,
and achieve. Yep.
So would you, you conceived, but you didn't yet believe.
No. And you can't achieve if you don't believe.
Right.
So, yeah, look, it's simple. I usually use that with these kids that I'm dealing with all the time because they don't even have the concept of what being great is about. You know what I mean? And some of them may come in and have too much of a concept of but for the most part, you're dealing with kids who are beat up on a day-to-day basis. And in some kind of way, you got to find a way to get them going, and and you got to get the concept of what success is about before you can believe that you can do it.
Right. Kids today are different.
Oh, they're very different.
And NIL, social media, the transfer portal, and the problems that's created with player loyalty to teams. It calls for a different leadership moment in some ways than when you were coming up.
Yeah.
I'm going to say than when we were coming up.
I think I'm a little older than you. But
just a few, actually just a few years. I looked it up. You'd be surprised. Like I said this morning, I'm owning it. I'm owning my generational privilege. What does today's moment call for leaders? Like, how do we need to be leading teams and young athletes, student athletes? high school and youth athletes differently, given all of the changes?
Yeah, I'm going to reference, what's happening at Notre Dame right now. This is not a plug of any sort, but I'm obviously pretty close. My son works for the recruiting department. And what's happening there is that these kids are locking in on Coach Freeman, and all they want to do is talk to him now. They just want to hear from him. And what he's given them is a deep belief in them that they could be great, right? And it's so amazing what's happening because, when he first got the job, man, they had me. I was Johnny on the spot, right? I was talking to 20, 25 kids. I mean, now it's down to like one kid,
right?
Because they see in him somebody who can lead them to the next level, right? And whether that's football or life, they'll take either one. They'll take both. And I think it's tough on coaches because a lot of these kids are not locked in on education. They're not locked in. I heard Nick Saban was with Coach Oates at Augusta. Of course, I had to get that plug in there. And to hear those two talk and to hear the Coach Saban say to Coach Oates how he had 30 kids after they had just lost the semi-championship game to line up and say, one after the other, am I getting more money?
Right.
And am I getting more playing time? Right. He had to cut the line off at 30 kids because, he had kids who had just recruited freshmen coming back in line, trying to get back in line.
Right.
And, the great thing about Notre Dame is kids come there because they really want to get an education. And so we don't have that problem. But when you have a guy like Coach Freeman who can lock in and he can talk about Notre Dame almost better than I can, which, trips me out a little bit because he's an Ohio State guy, right? So, y'all laugh about that later. But, so it's really incredible. And I think that's, that kind of leadership is tough. Now, look, there are a lot of people in leadership positions, but that don't mean that they're great leaders.
Right. Too many. Oh, if we had more time. Okay, so there's just switching it up a little bit before I get to my final question. It occurs to me, we're talking about super smart athletes. This year's #1 draft pick, stepping into your shoes at the Raiders, just got there a couple weeks ago. He has been credited with being humble and a good student, great football IQ. So my first question is, did Fernando Mendoza get the chant right after you taught it to him?
He finally got it right, yes. Initially, it was pretty bad. I don't know what Raiders. I was like, dude, bro.
It was a little rough.
I mean, it was a little rough, So we got a chance to teach him that. But look, I think this kid is going to be great. I think he's a great leader already. And I mean, I don't know if you guys heard, but he had a chance to go do something, but decided he was going to be with his team. And, he got a lot of flack for not going, but at the same time, I think it was the right decision because if you're going to be the leader, you got to be there to be the leader. You cannot be the leader on an airplane,
Right.
So, so I think that I think he's going to be great. They said a lot of the same things about me, that I didn't fit in as being a Raider. I should be in the church choir instead of being with the Raiders. But, when you get on the football field, you have to flip that switch. And I think he is capable of doing that. And so hopefully he'll play great.
Is there any advice that you can share that you've shared with him, with us today, or you want to keep that just between the two of you for now?
Look, I mean, when you're talking about football, football is what it is, and when you're talking about right before the championship game, he asked me, what can he say to the team? And I told him, I said, look, it's not about you or your starting receiver or your starting left tackle or defensive tackle, whatever. The guys who are going to win this football game for you are guys who are your special team guys. Those are the guys who need to make a play. And you guys recall they blocked the punt in that game for a touchdown. So literally, it felt like seconds after the game, he was texting me like, dude, how did you, but, so I think when you talk about football, and I told him, look, I'm not here to, be your daddy or whatever, I'm just a resource for you. So if you ever need me, text me, call me. If I can't answer whatever you got, I know plenty of other Hall of Famers who may be able to get you where you need to get to.
So final question. We don't have that much time, but might go a minute over. Sorry, everybody. Yesterday, we announced here on this stage a partnership between the Heisman Trust and Aspen Institute, the new Aspen Institute Captain's Leadership Academy. You, along with Charlie Ward, are the two founding mentors. So knowing what you know now, this is a new program. We're in the process of putting it together, shaping it, forming it. How do we build this so that it stands the test of time, so that it outlasts everyone who's in this room, and that it can have the ability and the capacity to help transform not just players' lives or captains' lives, but our communities, our culture, our society?
Yeah, look, I think what we talked about in the meeting this morning was that this has to be done by the students. Because the students are not going to look at it as being real if somebody from the outside is coming in to do it. And I think if you can do that, if you can get it going from that standpoint, where you have the students who are leading this, this charge, I think you have something that's really special, and you have something that is real inside that school, maybe even inside the neighborhood, which is really what I think we should be trying to accomplish. So I think from that standpoint, when you have kids who are hungry for this kind of a teaching or learning, whatever you want to say, if you bring something like this in, it could be incredible, not only for that particular place, but throughout the city, and hopefully, throughout the country. That's the name of the game.
Absolutely amazing. Well, Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
On behalf of myself and everybody here, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
A real honor to be on the stage with you.
Please welcome the Executive Director of Project Play and Sports and Society, Tom Ferry.
All right, y'all tired of seeing me? This is my last time on stage. Listen, I hope everybody's enjoyed the conference here. We have breakouts coming after. We're not done with you yet, but we are closing down the plenary sessions here. I hope what you've learned so far, or one of the big takeaways, is that there's no silver bullet solution to improving youth sports in this country, making it more accessible, safer, more high quality. But there's a foundation. On some level, it is actually simple. It starts with a common set of ideas and a common set of common language. And so the Children's Bill of Rights is sports. We're not going to go away from it because we understand this is the foundation for building, a system that can be as productive as possible. So I'm really excited right now to announce the next set of endorsers. That would be the Boston Athletic Association, which is the Boston Marathon. We have the Boston 26 World Cup Host Committee. They join the World Cup Host Committee of New York, New Jersey, Guadalajara, the Mayor of Kansas City, and the Bay Area Host Committee as well. So we've got a little bit of a shared storytelling here as we move into the big event this summer. We have Sports Don Levy and the Festival 26, which is related to the World Cup. And finally, we have the Adidas Foundation, which we're given their footprint on the global stage is really exciting. I'd like to thank them as well. And the NWSL's Boston Legacy. So let me show you a quick video.
Boston Legacy FC is proud to join the global sports community in endorsing the Children's Bill of Rights in sports. Welcome to Boston, Project Play.
All right. I'd also like to thank the incredible team that has pulled this event together, starting with Ainsley and his staff here at the hotel. We got Sean, Nina, and the Encore AV team up there. From the mayor's office, we got Lisa Conley, Jose, and the mayor herself. We have the Aspen Institute support team. If you notice, there are about probably 25 people supporting this event. Half of them are from the Institute itself. That's Adam, Jordan, Caleb, Steve, Vicky, Carla, Sally, Maya and Jessica, Allison, Lindsay, Ryan, Anthony, and John Melgard, who is our showrunner. And then our Project Play team from the Sports and Society program, the folks who wake up every single day to try to move this, push this movement forward. That would be, and they're all incredible people who have been digging in, helping make this a great event. That would be Ashley, Jennifer, John, Marty, Ruby, Sabrina, Vince, Abby, Jaden, and most of all, Catherine Quinn, who is the event director. Catherine's so good at this now. I saw her at the reception last night, and she's just all loose and dancing and not dancing. She's got everything in order here. I mean, it's incredible to pull together an event with 875 people and 100 speakers and all of the announcements we pull together and the AV and just pulling everybody. It's an extraordinary circus that she makes happen. So thank you, Catherine, for your incredible contributions. I'd like to thank again our generous sponsors, The Good Game. Thank you so much. The Wilson Foundation, the Dick's Sporting Goods Foundation, and Game Changer, New Balance Foundation, Meet Boston, Anchored, Soccer Forward, the Lego Education Group, the Fox Sports, Dairy Max, Score Sports, the Boston Red Sox Foundation, Volo. We keep going, folks, because we're very appreciative of everybody who makes this thing happen. Franklin, the Massachusetts Youth Lacrosse, People for Bikes, Fun Play Foundation, and Boston's Children's Hospital. And now we have a special guest with an announcement about Project Play Summit 2027.
Growing up, me and my brothers always believed and dreamed for something bigger than us, something special. That's why the power of sports builds confidence, discipline, and a sense of belonging. In Milwaukee, I see that too. I see the same hope in youth. Through Antetokounmpo Academy and the CAF Foundation, we've seen what's possible when kids have a place to grow. In Milwaukee, I see that. Milwaukee believes in our power too. That's why I'm excited to welcome Project Play 2027 to Milwaukee. Together, let's ensure every kid has a chance to play, dream, and build something special. See you next year. Welcome to the summit. Peace.
We brought all of Milwaukee to meet all of you great people. I'm Frank Hummerbatch. I'm the Vice President for Engagement at Bader Philanthropies, and we are the lead organization on Project Play 2027 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Thank you. We are a 34-year-old foundation headquartered in the inner city of Milwaukee. We moved our headquarters from downtown Milwaukee into the heart of the city. In the last 4 years, we've invested over $10 million just in youth sports. On behalf of Mr. David Bader, CEO of the organization, the management team, and this young lady right here is in charge of doling out all the grants to all the youth sports organization, and this is just a microcosm of them back here. She's our champion of youth sports in the organization. We welcome all of you to Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2027. I want to thank Tom, Jennifer, Catherine, and the entire Project Play team for the opportunity to put the spotlight on youth sports in the state of Wisconsin and the entire region. The people behind me represent just a microcosm of our commitment to and our passion for youth sports in Wisconsin. We believe that until every child could see their full potential, this country will never achieve its full potential. And finally, a great thanks to my colleague and a great friend, Lauren Coughlin, Global Director for the Charles Antetokounmpo Family Foundation, for bringing, people call him the Greek freak, but he's our freak too, the Milwaukee freak, that's Giannis Antetokounmpo. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing all of you in Milwaukee. Thank you. See you soon.
Please welcome Styx back to the stage.
Check, check, check. High fives, high fives, high fives, high fives, high fives, high fives. Everybody look at the person next to you and high five somebody. High five somebody. That's loud, I love that. Yeah, he high five me. Yeah. This is what Project Play is all about. Did everybody have a great time? Everybody do me a favor, make some noise for the entire Project Play Aspen Institute team. This is an amazing, amazing, amazing event. I couldn't stop running my mouth outside. There's so many amazing people out here. If I didn't get a chance to meet you personally, I apologize. But everyone that I did get a chance to meet personally, you made this possible. Everybody, all 850 plus people who registered, came, participated, you made this possible. Another shout out to the entire production team. You know what I mean? I look good on camera. Shout outs to the photographer. Them pictures is fly. You know what I mean? You got my good side. You know what I'm saying? If you want to know more, obviously Project Play, support it, grow with it, learn more about it. Continue to do what all of you are doing in those communities. Continue to do what all of you are doing for the game, for sport, for youth. You are here for a reason. Say, I am here on purpose. I'm supposed to be here. Youth sports matters. And very loud, say, Project Play. Everybody, it's been real. 2027, we'll be back bigger than ever. We're going to need a bigger space than this time after that. Take care, drive safe, travel safe. It's lunchtime, get some food. Keep it going.
Please welcome